Chapter 580, Shot to Fame, 3. The prices Wang Xian was charging were definitely the lowest in the entire Yongchang city. The main reason was largely because his success rate was insanely high. Even Grandmaster class existences wouldn't have a success rate of 100% in refining elixir pills or spiritual equipment. It was especially so for refining elixir pills. An alchemist grandmaster would at most have a success rate of 40 to 50% while refining level 5 elixir pills. As for refining level 6 elixir pills, the success rate would roughly be at 30%. However, Wang Xian could achieve 100%. In other words, even if Wang Xian had accepted 2 sets of materials for refining elixir pills, his rewards would still be great. This was also the reason why Wang Xian agreed to the collaboration with the Mu family. When the volume was great, he would totally accept a lower price. Therefore, Wang Xian also offered a seemingly exceptional low price to Tianwen sect. Not charging. When the 5 men heard Wang Xian, they were stunned once again. He's not charging. He's really not charging. Are there such good deals in the world? They felt this was a little unbelievable. However, they knew that he wasn't lying to them when they saw boxes of precious materials placed on the floor. He had no reason to scam them either. Master, your charges are even a lot cheaper than the Saint Forge workshop. This. The middle-aged man with long hair looked at Wang Xian and spoke with disbelief. You don't have to worry about the quality of the elixir pills or spiritual equipment. Wang Xian smiled and replied to him. Thank you, Master. Thank you, Master. We will arrange to send the materials here right away. Thank you, Master, for being magnanimous. After we offended you, you are still willing to do so. Let me apologize to you once again, the 5 of them said gratefully. This was the level of magnanimity that a master should have. Despite them offending Wang Xian just moments ago, Wang Xian was still willing to charge them a really low price. Wang Xian smiled faintly and said, you guys can go prepare the materials. Just send them over when you are ready. If you can, help me publicize my shop. Yes, yes. The 5 of them nodded and added, we will go get the materials ready and will be back soon. All right. Wang Xian nodded his head. He looked to the boxes of materials beside him, waved his arm and sent them to the 2nd floor. The 5 people from Tianwen sect didn't hesitate at all as they headed for the exit right away. This feels unreal. When the 5 men from Tianwen sect left the small shop, they looked at the signboard once again. They felt a little confused and lost. Yeah! That young man is really a master. Moreover, even the Mu family looked for him to refine their elixir pills and spiritual equipment. I wonder if he's the alchemist master or blacksmith master. Is there another master? It has to be. We are lucky that the people from the Mu family were here. If we clashed with the master, the outcome would have been really unimaginable. That master is magnanimous and we are really lucky. Yeah, we are really lucky. As the 5 of them conversed, they couldn't help but be excited. They would have never expected a small shop like this to really have a master. Moreover, the master was magnanimous. He didn't take offense and agreed to refine elixir pills and spiritual equipment for them. This made the 5 of them greatly impressed by Wang Xian. That's a real master. Let's go and get our materials. Let's go. The master even charges a lot lower than the Saint Forge workshop. It's a blessing in disguise that the bunch of scumbags from Saint Forge workshop rejected us previously. Otherwise, we wouldn't have gotten such a great deal. The 5 of them headed back towards their sect excitedly. In less than an hour, they came back with several boxes of materials. Master, Master. The 5 of them carried boxes of materials into the shop with some other disciples of Tianwen sect. You can just leave them there. Wang Xian was pleasantly surprised to see them back so quickly as he instructed them. Yes, yes. The 5 of them nodded their heads and instructed their disciples. Master, when will our spiritual equipment and elixir pills be done? The 5 of them rubbed their hands as they asked Wang Xian. Your orders are fewer. I'll refine your materials first. You guys can return to collect in the afternoon tomorrow. Wang Xian looked across the boxes and spoke directly. Afternoon, tomorrow? So fast? The 5 of them were shocked once again. Just come back tomorrow and they will be ready. All right, all right. The 5 of them nodded their heads and didn't question further. After exchanging a few more words with Wang Xian, they left the shop. Puff! It's another rewarding day. Wang Xian moved all the materials to the second floor. He couldn't help but feel exhilarated. The materials and elixir pills from the Mu family would allow him to gain over 30 million points of dragon energy. As for the elixir pills of Tianwen sect, he would also be able to gain over 6 million points of dragon energy. Together, his dragon energy would reach approximately 40 million. On top of that, he would still get a huge batch of spiritual equipment. This is even more insane than robbing a bank. Wang Xian's eyes stared fervently at the various materials on the second floor. He closed the shop for the day. The spiritual flame ball can be devoured by the Inferno Dragon Ball, while the spiritual liquid ball can be used to nourish the Water Dragon Ball. Wang Xian had 3 Dragon Balls currently. A level 11 Inferno Dragon Ball, a level 10 Wood Dragon Ball and a level 10 Water Dragon Ball. The level of the Inferno Dragon Ball was the highest. After devouring the level 11 Spiritual Flame Ball, the Inferno Dragon Ball would get a substantial lift. The Wood Dragon Ball was the level 9 Spiritual Wood Ball he obtained on the floating island previously. He had now nurtured it to level 10. The 3 Dragon Balls were of little use to him currently. However, when the Dragon Balls reached the same level as him, the might of the Dragon Balls would be incredible. Wang Xian spent a full 15 hours before completely refining the materials brought by Tianwen sect into spiritual equipment and elixir pills. The boxes of spiritual equipment and elixir pills would definitely draw a frenzied crowd if placed in the underworld. In Yongchang world, there were also precious items. Master. At noon, the voices of the 5 old men from Tianwen sect could be heard. They are done. Feel free to take them away. Wang Xian waved his arm and the boxes of spiritual equipment and elixir pills flew from the second floor. Subsequently, he walked down while wearing a faint smile. Done. The 5 of them were exhilarated. These elixir pills and spiritual equipment were all exceptionally precious to Tianwen sect. They are done. They are all done. Oh gosh. The spiritual equipment and elixir pills are done. Thank you, Master. Thank you. When they opened the boxes and saw the spiritual equipment and elixir pills, they were elated and thanked Wang Xian loudly. You are welcome. If you can help to introduce customers and send them over, please do so. Wang Xian waved his arms at them and continued, I'm going back to work. Yes, yes. Master. The 5 of them nodded their heads respectfully before turning their fervent gaze back to the spiritual equipment and elixir pills. Huh. Let's go. I was still worried that we couldn't find a master to refine for us. Even if we found one, it might take 3 to 4 months or even 6 to 7 months. Now, we got it done in a single day. Our luck is really off the charts. The 5 of them carried the boxes out joyously and loaded them onto a horse carriage. Let's go, the 5 of them shouted happily. Old Gu, take a look at the entrance of Saint Forge Workshop. The scumbags from Invincible are there too. When the horse carriage went past the entrance of the Saint Forge Workshop, a middle-aged man squinted his eyes and saw a group of people before the entrance of Saint Forge Workshop. The middle-aged man with long hair looked over and a thought struck him. That master forgave us and still refined spiritual equipment and elixir pills for us. Our Tianwen sect should also try to repay this graciousness and express our gratitude. Since that master asked us to introduce customers to him, it's only natural that we do our best. Chapter 581, Saint Forge Workshop is indeed trash. 1. Yongchang would soon descend to the real world, and information about the real world had been divulged in Yongchang Immortal Sect. But the people and forces in Yongchang world were not worried about the real world at all. It was just the age of Dharma decline. When they arrived in the real world, they would dominate and roam around without any difficulties. The underworld in the real world might seem like trash, but they were more concerned about the other immortal sects in the rest of the 9 cauldrons worlds. Since they were only part of the 9 worlds, there would be powerful cultivators in the other 8 worlds as well. The people in Yongchang world would need to be well prepared to face these cultivators. Hence, all the forces and families were making their preparation as soon as the news of Yongchang world descending to the real world was out. All the families and forces had converted their resources into strength to deal with the real world. Metallic materials were converted to spiritual equipment, spiritual grass to elixir pills. That was the reason why alchemist masters and blacksmith masters became popular figures while the elixir pills and weapons had become the top-selling items in the shops. As the biggest workshop for refining equipment and elixir pills, various alchemist masters and blacksmith masters worked in Saint Forge workshop, and their business was unusually hot. Even those pre-ordered spiritual equipment and elixir pills could only be available months later. For the last 2 days, many customers had gathered at the door of Saint Forge workshop. At one glance, one would know that all of them came from families that possessed relatively great strength in the Yongchang world. Saint Forge workshop is pricey, and even those unknown alchemists are arrogant. Since they cannot take in that much business, we should not let some of our friends suffer while waiting in line for such an unscrupulous shop. The long-haired middle-aged man of Tianwen's sect drew a cold smile and murmured to himself. That's right, many people do not know about that master's shop. We should help him to promote his shop. The remaining 4 middle-aged men and elders revealed creepy smiles. The 5 of them exchanged gazes as they grinned at each other. They slowed down their carriage and walked slowly toward the Saint Forge workshop. I know everyone can't wait, but you guys need to wait. It will take another 1.5 months before it's your turn. Saint Forge workshop is the biggest alchemy and blacksmith workshop in Yongchang City. No other places are comparable to us. But you guys need to wait. When the 5 people arrived at the door, they heard the staff speaking to a few in-charges from various forces and families with arrogance. The people from the various forces and families had twisted expressions, but they did not dare to flare up. After all, they needed Saint Forge workshop. Everyone, just queue up and that will do. All it takes is another 1 or 2 months. Don't be anxious. At this time, several middle-aged men told the surrounding crowd this with a calm look. The weapons and elixir pills of Invincible are in the process of being refined now. You guys are not in a hurry, but we are, said an old man to that middle-aged man coldly with an awful expression. Haha, better than not waiting in the line. The middle-aged man from Invincible chuckled softly as he spoke. Several people turned to the 5 men on the carriage. With lips drawn, he continued, unlike some forces who can't even get in the line. Upon hearing what the people from Invincible said, some of the elders at the side furrowed their brows and peered to the side when they spotted the 5 men from Tianwen's sect. Invincible and Tianwen's sect were enemies, and everyone on the spot knew about that. The Tianwen sect complained that the waiting time was too long, and said they were not going to refine anything in Saint Forge workshop. I would like to see which other workshops can accept such a large volume of orders apart from Saint Forge workshop. The staff at the side peered at the 5 men from Tianwen's sect and issued subtle warnings to the rest of the forces. The in-charges of the forces had a change in their expression and took in a deep breath. Well, we can wait. Sorry for all the trouble. These are some gifts of appreciation. Several of them fished out some gifts and handed them over to the staff with twisted expressions. The staff of Saint Forge workshop nodded gently with broad smiles. At this time, the 5 men from Tianwen's sect, who had just arrived, overheard their conversations. All of them revealed a tinge of coldness and disdain in their eyes. Before they could even seek trouble, the other party was already picking on them. Hey, Tianwen's sect, where are you heading to? Have you found a master of alchemy and blacksmithing? Before the 5 men from Tianwen's sect speak, those middle-aged men from Invincible ridiculed them for their misfortunes. Invincible and Tianwen's sect had been going against each other for centuries. They would not miss any chance of bringing down their opponents. Alchemy Master, Blacksmith Master. Upon hearing their sneers, a strange look surfaced on the faces of the 5 men from Tianwen's sect. Of course we did. We even got our spiritual equipment and elixir pills done. Haha, interesting. Several middle-aged men from Invincible chuckled as they looked on, scornful of what they heard. You guys just want to act tough. Who else in the entire Yongchang city, other than St. Forge Workshop, has a blacksmith master and alchemy master? Haha, interesting. The staff of St. Forge Workshop sneered upon hearing it. Haha. The 5 men from Tianwen's sect also burst out laughing when they heard their sarcasm. With unbridled looks on their faces, they stared right into their eyes. Don't assume the St. Forge Workshop dominates the entire Yongchang city. You bunch of arrogant brats. Even an insignificant staff member dares to act insolently. Well, when it comes to blacksmithing and alchemy, the St. Forge Workshop is the best in Yongchang city. That staff member narrowed his eyes with his usual pridefulness on his face. Some people are fuming with anger since they can't find alchemy and blacksmith masters. The few middle-aged men from Invincible slightly lifted their chins, beaming, as they enjoyed the flustered looks of Tianwen's sect. A few in-charges from other forces shook their heads slowly as they looked at Tianwen's sect. To them, the 5 of them did look as though they had lost their minds out of panic. Is that so? You guys are really confident. Do you think St. Forge Workshop rules the entire market of Yongchang? A fiery-tempered middle-aged man stood up on the carriage immediately, revealing an insolent look. Brazen brats. Does Tianwen's sect need St. Forge Workshop to forge weapons and refine pills for us? Do you think I care? The St. Forge Workshop is just an unscrupulous shop for us. I'll show you the things we had refined by a master. If not, you guys would think that St. Forge Workshop is the only shop in the entire Yongchang city. Chapter 582, St. Forge Workshop is indeed trash, too. Swish. Caw caw caw. As the bad-tempered middle-aged man spoke, he stood on the horse carriage and waved his arm at it. A gust of strong wind opened the boxes on the horse carriage. With an extremely brazen and unruly expression, he shouted loudly, "Do I need St. Forge Workshop, the place for scams, to refine my spiritual equipment and elixir pills? In my eyes, you guys are trash. You guys are trash." The middle-aged man from Tianwen's sect was brazen and arrogant. Standing on the horse carriage while he was on the most prosperous street in Yongchang city, he shouted loudly to everyone that St. Forge Workshop was trash. Few people in the entire Yongchang city would have the guts to say such words. This was because with the strength and capabilities of St. Forge Workshop, people might die laughing because of what you said. Yet, this middle-aged man stood on his horse carriage and opened up the 6 to 7 boxes directly. In these boxes were various pieces of spiritual equipment and elixir pills packed tightly together. This scene truly shocked everyone around. It was especially so for the group at the entrance of St. Forge Workshop. The employees of St. Forge Workshop. The few middle-aged men from Invincible. And the people in charge of several other forces. They were astonished to see the various pieces of spiritual equipment and elixir pills on the horse carriage of Tianwen's sect. Their eyes widened and they clearly couldn't believe what they were seeing. That employee from St. Forge Workshop was dumbfounded. His expression changed rapidly and he shouted coldly, "TSK. You guys are deceiving yourselves, or trying to deceive us, after finding a batch of spiritual equipment and elixir pills and passing them off as those refined by an alchemist master and a blacksmith master. How interesting. Tianwen's sect is really laughable. Did you guys find a batch of elixir pills and spiritual equipment to prove to us how dumb you guys are?" The middle-aged men from Invincible remarked sarcastically. "Hee. You guys can choose not to believe us. That's as expected as you guys are too arrogant." The middle-aged man with long hair looked across the crowd coldly. In the end, his eyes fell on the few forces standing by the side. Our Tianwen sect isn't free and silly to that extent. These were refined by an alchemist master and blacksmith master we found yesterday. They can be found in a shop a short distance away. The prices they are charging are also a lot lower than the Saint Forge workshop. Ha! The leaders of several forces frowned instantly and were clearly hesitating. Do you really mean it? An old man asked the middle-aged man with long hair. If we are lying to you guys, may our Tianwen sect be annihilated, the middle-aged man with long hair replied. Ha! 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 The reply from the middle-aged man with long hair shocked the entire crowd. A deadly vow like this wasn't to be joked about. Is there really a shop with an alchemist master and blacksmith master? Surprise beamed in the eyes of that old man as he pursued it further. Are you guys still thinking that I'm joking? Let me bring you guys there. Once you are there, you guys will know Saint Forge workshop is a pile of trash, the middle-aged man commented solemnly. In that case, I'll be troubling you. The in-charges of several forces were excited and greeted the middle-aged man with long hair. Huh. Let's go. The 5 men from Tianwen's sect laughed proudly, turned their horse carriage around and headed towards Wang Xian's shop. The leaders of several forces followed behind without any hesitation. Other than our Saint Forge workshop, which other's shop in Yongchang City would have an alchemist master and blacksmith master? This couldn't be possible. Those people from Tianwen's sect must be up to something. The employees of Saint Forge workshop were extremely gloomy. After seeing the crowd that left, they reported to the shop immediately. Let's go take a look. The group of middle-aged men from Tianliu exchanged glances and were clearly suspicious of the whole incident. Let's follow them and see what tricks they are up to. Let's go. A group followed behind the 5 men from Tianwen sect. Hee. We have brought huge businesses for that master this time. If news of master's shop was to get out, would there still be a Saint Forge workshop? As compared to the master's shop, it's clear that they are overcharging the customers. That's right. The 5 men from Tianwen sect grinned. Wang Xian's shop was less than 1,000 meters away from Saint Forge workshop. In less than 3 minutes, the crowd had arrived at the entrance of the shop. Come, follow us. The 5 men from Tianwen sect jumped off the horse carriage and spoke to the people in charge of several forces behind them. Ha! The group of 7 to 8 people looked across and was stunned. They looked blankly at the shop the 5 men had entered. Would this be the shop of a master? That old man opened his mouth in shock. Let's go in now. A middle-aged man hesitated for a moment before following the 5 men from Tianwen sect. Master. When the 5 men from Tianwen sect entered the shop, they didn't see Wang Xian. They immediately shouted for him. What's the matter? At this moment, Wang Xian was refining elixir pills. Master, we have brought you some customers. Would you like to meet them? The 5 men from Tianwen sect greeted him respectfully. Oh? Bring them to the 2nd floor. He wasn't done with the elixir pills before him and thus couldn't leave the 2nd floor. Yes. The 5 men from Tianwen sect nodded their heads. They turned to the in-charge of the several forces, smiled and said, "Follow us to the 2nd floor." Ha! The people in charge of the several forces looked around the shop and frowned deeply. They looked at the people from Tianwen sect and were a little curious. Among the people from Tianwen sect, there was a budding realm expert. Yet, he was still being so respectful a while ago. In the entire Yongchang world, other than the immortals, only a master was deserving of such respect. The 7 to 8 of them had no hesitation as they followed the 5 men from Tianwen sect to the 2nd floor. Isn't this a little too rundown? Why would a master be? With questions in their mind, the group headed to the 2nd floor. However, they were instantly shocked by what they saw on the 2nd floor. It was still roughly the same 30 square meters of space. What could they have seen? There were various boxes filled with various materials. A box full of level 11 metals, boxes of level 6 spiritual medicines. This deeply shocked them. Each of them was the in charge of one of several forces in Yongchang world. Although they might not be among the elite forces, they were definitely not weak. However, if one was to ask them to take out such an amount of materials, they wouldn't be able to do so. Yet, they were placed casually in boxes on the second floor. These materials were from the Mu family. Don't speak and wait for the master to complete his refining. The 5 men from Tianwen's sect were pleasantly pleased when they saw the group behind them dumbfounded by what they were seeing. The crowd looked towards the master in the middle with shock and awe. However, their eyes widened once again as disbelief overwhelmed them. Chapter 583, St. Forge Workshop is indeed trash, 3. A young man, who could easily pass as a juvenile, was spotted in the center of the room. At this moment, he was refining elixir pills at a rapid speed. With compelling art of water refining, his arms were swinging fast in front of him. Before him and the rest were elixir pills forming at an amazing speed. Each pill contained an immense amount of energy. They were familiar with this type of energy as it came from level 6 elixir pills. Level 6 elixir pills could significantly enhance the strength of Dan realm experts. However, only master-level alchemists could refine level 6 elixir pills. Form. Wang Xian pretended to be someone great as he let out a bellow while elixir pills quickly formed before him. Done, he yelled again when 4 elixir pills were formed amid a faint glow. Instantly, the room was filled with the aroma of medicine. Everyone gasped involuntarily. Level 6 elixir pills. Level 6 elixir pills. Master, he's a real master. The various in-charges could not help but narrow their eyes as they revealed a surprised look. This young man looked too young to be an alchemy master. He was the master that even Mu family had handed over their materials to for refining elixir pills. A respectful look surfaced on everyone's faces. Who wants to refine spiritual equipment or elixir pills? With an arm swing, Wang Xian placed the 4 elixir pills in a jade container within a chest. They noticed that the jade container was already filled with all kinds of elixir pills. Master, we would like you to refine elixir pills. One by one, the in-charges from the various forces turned fervent and spoke immediately. Do you know the price? Wang Xian stood up and said. Price? All of them froze for a moment before they turned to the 5 Tianwen sect people. 2 sets of material for 1 piece of spiritual equipment. For elixir pills for 3 sets of elixir pills material. No other additional fees, said the 5 men from Tianwen's sect to the in-charges as they slightly lifted their heads. What? Gosh! That's so cheap. How? How is this possible? It's much cheaper than St. Forge Workshop. All the in-charges were stupefied as they widened their eyes with looks of disbelief on their faces. Yes, this is the price. Bring your materials over if you want the service. I'll get all your spiritual equipment and elixir pills ready within half a month, said Wang Xian indifferently. This. Master. Great. We'll bring over the materials now. Master, you offer such an affordable service. You're a great master that St. Forge Workshop can't even be compared to. The in-charges of various forces were going crazy. Damn, compared to St. Forge Workshop, this master was not only someone great but a saint. They could save at least 60,000, or up to hundreds of thousands of spiritual stones as compared to St. Forge Workshop if they handed the materials to this master. Comparing the two of them, St. Forge Workshop was just none other than an unscrupulous shop. Hee, how can we compare you to St. Forge Workshop? St. Forge Workshop is absolute trash in front of you, the master. The 5 men from Tianwen's sect immediately licked his boots. St. Forge Workshop? Wang Xian turned to the crowd as he recalled his last visit to St. Forge Workshop. When he thought of the 2 masters, Xuanhua and Qingming, coldness flashed in his eyes. He remarked plainly, Saint Forge Workshop is indeed trash. At this time, people from Invincible, an alchemist and that staff member from Saint Forge Workshop who was following behind, stepped into the shop together. They were looking around with disdainful looks. Such a small shop like this could actually house a master? What a joke, the alchemist from Saint Forge Workshop ridiculed. What a trashy shop. What master? The several middle-aged men from Invincible mocked. The Saint Forge Workshop is indeed trash. At this time, an impassive voice came from the second floor, which darkened the expressions of the staff and the alchemist from Saint Forge Workshop. Who dares to badmouth our Saint Forge Workshop? Do you wish to die? Without any expression, the alchemist of Saint Forge Workshop shouted to the stairs. Ha ha! Upon hearing the voice from downstairs, Wang Xian chuckled coldly. Chase them away. Those who want to refine equipment and elixir pills, bringing over the materials will do. Yes, master. The in-charges immediately spoke with respect. Wang Xian nodded and continued with his work. The various in-charges and the 5 men from Tianwen sect exchanged gazes as they walked down the stairs. Which ignorant dog is yelling in the master's shop? One of the in-charges bellowed coldly. Who are you guys? How dare you say the Saint Forge Workshop is trash? Are you seeking death? The alchemist of Saint Forge Workshop did not recognize the group of people as he stared daggers at them with cold eyes. However, the staff member of Saint Forge Workshop and the few middle-aged men from Saint Forge Workshop were taken aback. So what if I said Saint Forge Workshop is trash? Trying to stop people from commenting when you're indeed trash? Immense aura began to surge around the in-charges of several forces. At this moment, they totally disregarded the Saint Forge Workshop. Just now, they had really needed help from Saint Forge Workshop. But even a staff member from Saint Forge Workshop dared to show them attitude and act brazenly. They had already stomached their anger for very long. If not for the fact that they required help from Saint Forge Workshop, why would they even swallow this? Now that they had found a master who offered a more affordable price than Saint Forge Workshop, and a shorter waiting time, why would they give face to an insignificant alchemist? Or even to an employee? They were in charges of the various forces. As everyone spoke, they walked down the stairs with icy cold eyes, glowering at the 2 people from Saint Forge Workshop with rage. We said Saint Forge Workshop is trash, and you asked us if we're looking for our deaths? An old man swept his expressionless eyes at the 2 of them, exploding an immense amount of aura and oppression that aimed straight at them. What? You people. The alchemist of Saint Forge Workshop had a huge change in his expression as he looked at them in fear. Hand over the things that we gave you, brat. The old man fixed his eyes on the staff member disdainfully. You people, don't you want your equipment and pills from Saint Forge Workshop? You guys. The eyes of the staff widened with astonishment as he growled with an awkward look. The trashy Saint Forge Workshop? Damn you, the elixir pills and spiritual equipment over here are much cheaper than you guys. Why should we go over to your place? A middle-aged man could not be bothered as he screamed at them, get out of here now, and don't taint this place, trash from Saint Forge Workshop. You people, you people. The alchemist and the staff member of Saint Forge Workshop paled as they looked at them with surprise. How could they say such things to Saint Forge Workshop? Why did their attitude change so quickly? Chapter 584, Famous Throughout Yongchang, 1. When the alchemist and employees of Saint Forge Workshop walked out bitterly from the shop, they were a little out of sorts. As an alchemist of the Saint Forge Workshop, his standing in Yongchang City wasn't any inferior to a half-step to budding realm expert. Yet, they were chided moments ago. And they were calling Saint Forge Workshop trash. Facing the confrontational group who wasn't willing to show him any respect, the alchemist of Saint Forge Workshop walked back to Saint Forge Workshop with a long face. TSK. Arrogant scumbags. Do they really think we could get our spiritual equipment and elixir pills refined without your Saint Forge Workshop? An old man snorted coldly. He looked at the middle-aged man beside him and said, let's go back now and get our family to prepare the materials for the master to refine. We've got to get back too and ask our families to prepare the materials. Go! The in-charges of several forces returned to their families and sects rapidly. They were burning with excitement and wanted to bring the materials over as soon as they could. Considering the favorable prices the master was charging, the entire Yongchang city might flood here if other forces learned about it. They had to get their materials to the master before the rest so they could get their products as soon as possible. Hee. When the group from Tianwen sect saw them leaving in a hurry, their lips curved into a smile. They smirked at the group from Zhenliu and commented, "A bunch of dimwits." As they finished their words, they boarded their horse carriage and headed back towards their sects with greatly improved moods. The few middle-aged men from Zhenliu were completely stunned. They looked at the group of forces that had left with astonishment as their expressions changed rapidly. What just happened? What's happening? A small shop like this. Could it be? Could it be? The group of middle-aged men from Zhenliu stared at the shop before their eyes and were hesitating. Why don't we go in and ask? A middle-aged man hesitated for a moment before saying this to the other few men. Go. Let's get in. The few middle-aged men walked into the small shop with lots of questions. Fuck that dirty St. Forge workshop. As compared to this master, they are overcharging too much. They are trash. However, the few middle-aged men walked out of the shop furiously in less than 10 minutes. They were still feeling a little shock, but anger was overwhelming them. I finally understand why those forces are saying St. Forge workshop is trash. As compared to this master, they are seriously overcharging us. Oh gosh. We have lost. We have lost so much. The group of middle-aged men were shivering with anger. They were indeed closer to St. Forge workshop. However, they didn't get any preferential price for refining spiritual equipment or elixir pills this time despite having better relationships. Instead, they even forked over 40,000 spiritual stones to bribe the two masters of St. Forge workshop. This allowed their orders to be fulfilled first and pushed Tianwen's sect all the way to the back. Yet, they would have never expected the prices of this small shop to be so cheap. If we had asked this master to refine our spiritual equipment and elixir pills, we would have saved at least several hundreds of thousands of spiritual stones. Fuck. We are talking about several hundreds of thousands here. The face of a middle-aged man was contorted from anger. Why don't we bring our materials over and cancel our order from St. Forge workshop? Cancel our order from St. Forge workshop? But we have given the two masters 40,000 spiritual stones. Moreover, if we do this, would it be? There's nothing to feel bad about. Those two bloodsuckers. We have a good relationship with them because we have been offering gifts to them from time to time. As long as we have spiritual stones, we don't have to worry about not finding an alchemist master or blacksmith master. Yeah, you are right. Let's go and bring our materials over. Even if we can't get our 40,000 spiritual stones back, we could still save 100,000 spiritual stones. The group from Zhenliu exchanged glances and made their way towards St. Forge workshop immediately. Several middle-aged men arrived at the backyard of St. Forge workshop. They looked around and saw several forces and customers collecting their spiritual equipment and elixir pills or delivering materials. At this moment, that alchemist was conversing softly with that employee and Master Xuanhua. Master Xuanhua frowned. We don't have to pay attention to him. In the entire Yongchang city, none of the forge workshops or elixir refining shops are a match for our St. Forge workshop. TSK. If those forces aren't going to refine their items here, ask them to get lost. Our St. Forge workshop isn't lacking their business. Master Xuanhua said to them domineeringly. He looked across the few forces in the courtyard with a sense of superiority. Yes, Master. Those few forces are really courting their own demise. In the future, we will reject all their requests to refine elixir pills and spiritual equipment. Recalling the attitude from the in-charges of those forces, the alchemist remarked coldly. Master Xuanhua waved his hand, lifted his head proudly and didn't say another word. Master Xuanhua. At this moment, the group of middle-aged men from Mtizhenliu shouted. Ha! Master Xuanhua turned around, saw the group and showed a faint smile. Mtizhenliu was a respectable sect and this group of middle-aged men knew how to maintain relationships by sending gifts. Hi, guys, we have received the materials from Mtizhenliu. Rest assured. In half a month, we will be done with your request. Master Xuanhua said to the few middle-aged men with a smile. Master Xuanhua, we would like to apologize to you, a middle-aged man from Mtizhenliu said coldly upon seeing the smile on Master Xuanhua's face. This was the first time he was so cold to a master. Master Xuanhua, we have changed our minds suddenly and would like to take back our materials. Master Xuanhua, can you guys refund us our fees for workmanship? Ha! Master Xuanhua was shocked to hear him. He frowned and asked, what does Mtizhenliu mean by this? Our Mtizhenliu encountered some issues and will have to take back the materials. Please refund the workmanship fees of 70,000 spiritual stones. As for the rest, we aren't going to pursue it. The middle-aged man from Mtizhenliu spoke again. Master Xuanhua was clearly displeased by what he heard from the middle-aged man. He said, to rush your spiritual equipment and elixir pills, we have lost substantial business. Now that you guys are saying you want a refund, this isn't too appropriate, right? Master Xuanhua had thought that the previous few forces had left out of anger as they had to wait too long. Master Xuanhua, we understand our request is a little unreasonable but I hope you will agree. The group of middle-aged men wouldn't want to offend the Saint Forge workshop and thus spoke in a conciliatory tone. Our losses have to be compensated after all. We can return the materials to you but you won't be getting back the fees for workmanship. Master Xuanhua shook his head as he answered. Upon hearing Master Xuanhua's reply, the group of middle-aged men from Mtizhenliu instantly turned solemn. Master, we are already foregoing the 40,000 spiritual stones we have given you guys. Chapter 585, Famous Throughout Yongchang, 2. The middle-aged men from Mtizhenliu were a little pissed off. Without that young master's shop, they would not think that they had lost out a great deal by having Saint Forge Workshop refine spiritual equipment and elixir pills for them. However, it was a stark contrast between the two workshops with that young master around. Saint Forge Workshop charged way too much. The two of them could not be compared at all. None of them were willing to pass their jobs to Saint Forge Workshop anymore. Yet, the workshop disagreed about refunding the fees for the workmanship when they asked for their materials and fees back. This infuriated the few middle-aged men from Mtizhenliu. Guys, I don't know what you're thinking, but this isn't right. The spiritual stones that you have given to us were on the condition that we would speed up your job. This works the same as the workmanship fees. Now that you've changed your mind, it is natural that we recoup some losses. If you think this isn't appropriate, you can continue with the job. We'll deliver the items to you on time. Otherwise. Master Xuanhua spoke with great awe as he swept his cold gaze across the few of them. As a master, the #1 blacksmith master in the largest workshop of Yongchang City, and one of the bosses of Saint Forge Workshop, he had the right to be prideful. He had the right to disregard Mtizhenliu. Looking at the domineering and prideful Master Xuanhua, the middle-aged men from Mtizhenliu grimaced as they darkened their faces, exchanging looks with one another. Continue our job in Saint Forge Workshop? Master Xuanhua, we're not that silly, a middle-aged man remarked coldly. What do you mean by that? Watch your mouth, people. Upon hearing the furious tone from that middle-aged man, Master Xuanhua's blood boiled at the same time. No one could ever challenge a master's temper. What do we mean? Master Xuanhua, if a workshop requires 2 sets of materials for a piece of spiritual equipment, 3 sets of materials for 4 elixir pills, no other spiritual stones charges, what would be our choice? Why, Master Xuanhua? Saint Forge Workshop is overcharging us, and you don't even allow us to switch to another shop? Said a middle-aged man from Mtizhenliu with cold eyes as he looked at the furious Master Xuanhua. Excuse me? What did you say? Master Xuanhua was slightly stunned by his words as he narrowed his eyes. What are they talking about? How can there be such a cheap workshop around? Could such an affordable place be around? And it's refined by a master? A few forces and customers around the area were keeping constant attention over here when they overheard the argument. Upon hearing the middle-aged man, everyone was caught by surprise. We already made it clear. The Saint Forge workshop charges too much as compared to another master's workshop. It's only common sense for us to choose the cheaper one. Thus, we'd like Master Xuanhua to return our materials and refund our workmanship fees, the middle-aged man said impassively once again. Refining a piece of equipment only needs 2 sets of materials and 4 elixir pills for 3 sets of materials. No other spiritual stones charges. Where can you find such a good deal? Master Xuanhua's expression slowly twisted. Haha, that's the truth. A middle-aged man revealed a cold smile. He raised his voice. Master Xuanhua, we would like to take back our materials and workmanship fees. Please return them to us. Otherwise, this will ruin our friendship. You guys. Upon seeing the middle-aged men from Tijanliu standing firm against him, Xuanhua darkened his expression as he stared at them with flickering radiance in his eyes. The middle-aged men from Tijanliu had decided to confront Master Xuanhua. This time, they did not give in at all. Fine. If you are taking back all your things this time, Xuanhua will not refine anything for you even if you kneel before Saint Forge workshop next time. Master Xuanhua grimaced and spoke in a low voice. Haha, Master Xuanhua, rest assured that Tijanliu will never be back to Saint Forge workshop for any items. Will not cross our paths in the future. Haha, goodbye. The middle-aged men from Tijanliu burst out a clap of laughter as they headed outside. Their actions embarrassed Master Xuanhua even more. All the forces and customers fixed their quizzical eyes on the people from Tijanliu. Why did they dare to fall out with Saint Forge workshop? Refining a piece of equipment only needs 2 sets of materials and 4 elixir pills for 3 sets of materials. No other spiritual stones charges. Is this true? Radiance glistened in an elder's eyes as he stared at the figures from Tijanliu. With a slight hesitation, he immediately chased after them. The rest of the forces and customers hurriedly caught up with them. If what those people from Tijanliu said was true, they could save hundreds of thousands of spiritual stones when they refined equipment and elixir pills. This is impossible. How can there be such a low price? There's not much profit at all. Master Xuanhua clenched his fist with disbelief. At such a rate, a workshop would not possibly earn many spiritual stones except for some materials. This was hard for him to believe and he looked dreadful with a constant mix of expressions. The surrounding workers, blacksmiths, and alchemists were full of surprise as a bad feeling suddenly shrouded over them. In less than 5 minutes, those customers and forces who had just left returned to the workshop with a surprised look. Master Xuanhua, we're taking back our material. Sorry, a force that had yet to make his payment announced frankly. Master Xuanhua, I'm sorry. We're going to another place. Look, we did not bring any damage to your business. Can you return our materials and spiritual stones? Another force who had paid asked Master Xuanhua. Master Xuanhua. One by one, the customers and forces requested that their spiritual stones and materials be returned, as they would not require the services of Saint Forge workshop. Seeing this, Master Xuanhua was stupefied and his heart raced violently. All the staff in Saint Forge workshop were plunged into darkness. The sky seemed to have fallen on them, but why did this happen? What was the reason? In a shop not far away from Saint Forge workshop, Wang Xian looked at the forces who were bringing him chests of materials. His eyes glistered. Hearing that they had come over from Saint Forge workshop, Wang Xian's lips quirked slightly. Saint Forge workshop, today's just the beginning. It won't take long before you guys fall. You'll pay an unbelievable price for what you guys did the other time. And those young men, be patient. Wait for me. Wang Xian swept his gaze across the chests of material while he was filled with fighting spirit. It won't be long. It won't be long. Soon, soon. This world would not be able to contain him. At that time, he would be fearless against immortals and gods. Roaring through Yongchang. Chapter 586, Famous Throughout Yongchang, 3. On fire. On fire. A small shop in Yongchang City was the focus of all attention. There was an alchemist master and a blacksmith master in the smallest shop within the city center. The master only required 2 sets of materials for refining spiritual equipment. For refining elixir pills, he would give you 4 pills for 3 sets of materials. Moreover, he wouldn't charge any spiritual stones. News of his exceptionally low pricing for refining had spread throughout Yongchang City within 3 days. All the forces and customers were in a frenzy. During this period, when various forces were converting their resources into strength, they swarmed the shop. "Master, these are our materials. We would like to ask the master to refine them as soon as possible. We would be truly grateful." At this moment, forces after forces carried boxes of materials into the shop. They were making requests to Wang Xian while still being a little bewildered by the pricing. "Just leave it there. Come back in half a month to collect," Wang Xian said plainly to them. After which, he went to the second floor to continue his refining of elixir pills. Although the master was acting a little nonchalantly, they didn't say another word. Instead, they were respectful and headed for the exit. "This master is truly terrifyingly young," an old man exclaimed in shock. "Yeah. Rumor has it that this master is only 20-something years old. Moreover, there isn't a second person in the small shop. Some bold guesses are saying that this master is unparalleled in refining elixir pills and equipment." Unparalleled in refining elixir pills and equipment? Would there really be such an incredibly talented person in this world? Several people sighed emotionally as they returned to their families. It wasn't just this small shop that became the craze. At the same time, the news of a young alchemist master and blacksmith master that was unparalleled in refining elixir pills and equipment had attracted equal attention. Although many people weren't certain, the news had started circulating within Yongchang City. A 20-plus-year-old young man was both an alchemist master and a blacksmith master. This inevitably made many feel that the world was a little crazy. "Together with this batch of materials, I will be able to increase my dragon energy by 60 million points. I'm lacking approximately 10 million more before my level will increase to level 9. Wang Xian's eyes beamed as he looked at the boxes of materials. He smiled faintly and started refining rapidly. While increasing a terrifying amount of dragon energy, he was also forging various kinds of spiritual equipment. Based on his rough estimate, the materials in the shop would allow him to forge more than 1,400 pieces of spiritual equipment. Among which, there would be 150 pieces of level 11 spiritual equipment. This was an insane number. At this very moment, within Saint Forge Workshop a short distance away, Master Xuanhua, Master Qingming and a group of alchemists and blacksmiths were gathered in a resting room. The atmosphere of the room was extremely heavy. 2 masters sat there solemnly without moving an inch. "Master!" At this moment, the door to the room was pushed open. An employee wiped away the perspiration on his forehead anxiously. "Master, the people from the Zhou family have just brought their materials to that small shop," the employee said with great care. Puff puff. Master Xuanhua breathed deeply and his face was incomparably gloomy. Master Qingming, who was beside him, was equally bitter. He looked at Master Xuanhua and asked, "Our Saint Forge workshop has 0 business left. Could it be? Could it be we are just going to sit here? Not a single business partner was left. Not a single one." For the Saint Forge workshop, this felt a little unbelievable. As the largest equipment refining workshop and elixir refining shop in Yongchang City, they had never expected this to happen. Yet, they truly had no business left. It was all because of that small shop and it had started 3 days ago. Since 3 days ago, their business had experienced a meteoric dive. And now, the Saint Forge workshop had zero business left. Who's the one behind that small shop? How could he possibly set such a low price for refining elixir pills and spiritual equipment? Who the hell is he? Xuanhua growled and his voice reverberated across the room. We have not seen him previously either. All we know is that he's an extremely young master. Some say that he is only in his 20s and is unparalleled in refining elixir pills and equipment, that employee stammered while answering. We can't let this continue. Let's go. Let's go take a look at what this shop is trying to do. Master Qingming stood up and spoke with a gloomy expression. During the period where various large forces wanted to refine elixir pills and spiritual equipment, a shop popped up from nowhere. Not only did it now maintain the market price, but it also charged extremely low prices for refining elixir pills and spiritual equipment. This was a huge blow to the entire market and the Saint Forge workshop. Initially, the Saint Forge workshop was still considering whether they should increase their pricing. Now, it would be great if they even had business. No, we shouldn't go there on our own temporarily. Now isn't the right time. A ruthless look flashed in the eyes of Master Xuanhua. He said, that small shop is going against all the forge workshop in Yongchang world. Let's contact all the other shops and the forces behind them. I don't believe that the small shop would dare to go against the entire Yongchang. At that time, with our strength, we will slaughter that brat. Master Qingming squinted his eyes upon hearing Master Xuanhua. He replied, all right. We will spare his life for a few more days. He has now encroached upon the interests of all the elixir pill shops and weapon shops in Yongchang City. Unless he is an immortal. Otherwise, he will definitely be dead. The words of the two masters sent a chill down the spines of all alchemists and blacksmiths in the room. Yongchang City strongly restricted killing. However, the restriction was on the open front. If you could assassinate someone in the dark without alarming the enforcers, it wouldn't be a problem. However, their faces turned hideous soon after. The appearance of that small shop had broken their rice bowls. As the saying goes, to cut off one's wealth is to kill one's father. He had to die. At this very moment, it wasn't just the Saint Forge workshop. Other elixir pill shops and equipment forge workshops were also thinking hard about a countermeasure. In the end, they came up with a uniform solution. To erase that small shop's existence. Wang Xian wasn't aware that his low pricing for refining elixir pills and spiritual equipment had completely encroached upon the interests of some people in the entire Yongchang City. Even if he knew, he would be fearless. Soon, he was going to level up. Puff! Another day had passed. Wang Xian took a deep breath and rubbed his eyes softly. He had been refining elixir pills for 4 days and nights straight and had converted all the spiritual medicine brought by various forces into elixir pills. Name, Wang Xian. Race, 5 elements divine dragon, able to transform into a human. Level, 8, dragon energy, 87, 563, 421/100, 000000. Superpower, dominate the marine animals, ability to rule any marine animals that are lower than your own level. Devour any form of marine animals, for extraction of dragon energy. 5 elements control. Art of cultivation, divine dragon transformation. Art of fire refining, refine all equipment with the origin source flame. Art of water refining, refine all equipment with the origin source water. Battle techniques, water clone, preliminary, sword edge, preliminary, instant shift, preliminary. Just 10+ million more. Just 10+ million more. After consuming all the elixir pills, Wang Xian took a glance at his attributes and was clearly excited. Oh right. Mentor, you asked me to return once a week. I should be heading back today to take a look. Chapter 587, Great Waterfall Water Shockwave. Let's see if I can enter into level 3 and 4 of the scriptures depository this time round. I am a lot stronger now than I was a few days ago. Wang Xian moved swiftly on his sword towards Mdifengyu. Compared to a few days ago, the dragon energy in Wang Xian had increased to over 80 million points. This was 3 to 4-fold more energy than he had days before. Wang Xian was unsure of how strong his actual strength was right now. But he was confident that he would have easily killed Emperor Qi if he were to fight him again right now. Upon reaching Mdifengyu, Wang Xian saw a group of Mdifengyu disciples working on their cultivation. As opposed to 5 days ago, he noticed that several new disciples were among the group. Mentor Yu was in the midst of guiding the disciples when Wang Xian arrived. Everyone's attention quickly turned to him. There was a look of bewilderment on the faces of the new disciples as they were wondering who this man was. Wang Xian, you are here. Mentor Yu was delighted to see him and approached him after speaking to the disciples. Mentor Yu. Wang Xian smiled and acknowledged her. Come, take your cultivating resources. Mentor Yu led him towards one of the mountains. Here are 100 spiritual stones from Mdifengyu. For being in the top 20 disciples in the ranking, you get 500 spiritual stones every month. In addition, there are some elixir pills for you as well. Mentor Yu retrieved a blue bag from one of the rooms and tossed it at Wang Xian. Mentor Yu, I would like to go to level 3 and 4 of the scriptures depository, said Wang Xian to her. Level 3 and 4. Level 3 would be good enough for those from the Dan realm or Budding realm. But the arts and battle techniques in level 4 are not something you can manage. Are the spiritual stones sufficient for you? Mentor Yu said to Wang Xian. Yes. Wang Xian said and nodded. Okay, here you go. Train hard. Mentor Yu tossed another token at Wang Xian. There will be a spiritual tea session tomorrow afternoon. Mdifengyu is given 10 invitations. Do make yourself available. Spiritual tea session. What is that? Wang Xian asked with slight amazement. At Mdilingcha we have over 10 level 7 spiritual tea trees. Anyone who drinks the tea made by its leaves will greatly benefit his cultivating skills. Don't miss this golden opportunity. Mentor Yu explained to Wang Xian. Over 10 level 7 spiritual tea trees. Wang Xian clicked his tongue slightly and hesitated for a while. Alright, Mentor Yu. I will be there promptly tomorrow. He nodded. Okay. Mentor Yu smiled and left. Wang Xian flew to the scriptures depository without any hesitation. Soon he reached the mountain peak of the depository and darted through the familiar paths inside. After entering level 2, Wang Xian followed the path to level 3. To enter level 3, it would require a large number of spiritual stones, 2,000 to be exact, for a stay of 12 hours. Wang Xian looked at the slot at the side. He reached out for the space ring, retrieved the spiritual stones from it one by one and placed them into the slot. As he entered into level 3, Wang Xian swept his gaze across the area and noted that the size was much smaller than level 2. Battle Techniques imaging jade stones were placed neatly on the shelves. Compared to level 2, there were only 5 such stones in level 3. Wang Xian headed straight ahead. Sword Edge Storm, a middle-class battle technique upgraded from Sword Edge. To master this battle technique, one must first master the Sword Edge battle technique. Sword Jail, a middle-class battle technique upgraded from Sword Imprisonment. To cultivate this battle technique, one must first master the Sword Edge battle technique. Sword Cloud Sea, a middle-class battle technique upgraded from Sword Cloud. To cultivate this battle technique, one must first master the Sword Cloud battle technique. Sword Alps, a middle-class battle technique upgraded from Sword Shield. To cultivate this battle technique, one must first master the Sword Shield battle technique. Hidden Water, a middle-class battle technique upgraded from Water Clone and Hidden Mist. To cultivate this battle technique, one must first master the Water Clone and Hidden Mist battle techniques. Wang Xian studied the battle techniques imaging jade stones enthusiastically and tried to master them one by one. Compared to the primary level battle technique, the middle-class battle technique was obviously far superior in power and tactics. If any expert from the Dan realm can master any middle-class battle technique, they are practically invincible within their ranks. This upgrade in power is even more superior to that which one can get from any spiritual equipment. If any budding realm expert is capable of mastering 2 of these battle techniques, he will be regarded as a fearsome expert. In less than half an hour, Wang Xian had cultivated 5 battle techniques as his own. He was now able to unleash these battle techniques at will. Wang Xian's face beamed with excitement as he looked at the entrance to level 4. Level 4 battle techniques are the high-class battle techniques that can only be used by the immortals. Mastering these techniques will enable the immortals to come up with their own unique superpowers. Wang Xian recalled reading a record about such techniques from a book. He stared at the entrance to level 4 and thought about whether he should proceed further. 10,000 spiritual stones for 12 hours. Okay, let's go and take a look at what's in there. Wang Xian made up his mind and headed towards the entrance to level 4. He could easily afford the 10,000 spiritual stones right now. During the past few days, some of the forces brought him tens of thousands of spiritual stones along with the refining materials just to get into his good books. Wang Xian had kept all of these stones. Upon entering level 4 and slotting the 10,000 spiritual stones, Wang Xian followed the path upwards. This level 4 merely has 3 rooms. Wang Xian peered into the area of level 4 with astonishment. Unlike the other levels, there were no shelves in level 4, only 3 individual rooms with words engraved on the doors to the rooms. Great Waterfall Water Shockwave. Dangerous Steam Explosive Power. Sword Field. Wang Xian marveled at the 3 rooms before deciding to enter the room of Great Waterfall Water Shockwave. Inside the room, there was only one battle technique imaging jade stone in the center of the room with no reference books. The jade stone was about the size of a human head, which was about 7 or 8 times larger than the size of the jade stones in level 2 and 3. Wang Xian noticed there was a cushion facing the front of the room. He immediately walked towards it and sat down. Just as he was sitting down, a shocking scene unfolded before his eyes. The entire area before him, spanning a radius of 10 kilometers and 5 kilometers in height, was quickly filled up by an oval-shaped seawater field. In the middle of the seawater field was a blurry image of a man standing in it. He moved his arm, and the seawater started to gush out from the inside as though a waterfall of tens of thousands of meters high. The force of the water swiftly swept forward. In an instant, the seawater field looked like what one would witness on Doomsday. However, the scene dissipated slowly, replaced by the blurry image of the man who had started to create the horrid seawater field. Ding! Master the high-class battle technique. Great Waterfall Water Shockwave. Wang Xian felt like he'd been submerged under the water for a very long time before passing out. He regained consciousness after hearing a sound echoing from the system. I did it! I have learned a high-level battle technique that can only be mastered by immortals. Wang Xian's eyes burned with passion, and he recalled how the Great Waterfall Water Shockwave was unleashed before him. Even with my strong ability, I can only withstand the strength of the Great Waterfall Water Shockwave for 3 minutes. The consumption of my energy is too high. Wang Xian clicked his tongue slightly. In this instance, he felt a repulsive force being emitted inside the room. What? 12 hours flew past just like that. Chapter 588, Serpent Sword. Standing at the entrance to the 4th floor, Wang Xian hesitated a little. Let's practice the other 2 battle techniques when I have the time. It was already the next morning and he still had to attend a spiritual tea session in the afternoon. Wang Xian wouldn't want to miss the spiritual tea session. Wang Xian didn't have many other hobbies. He wasn't a fan of smoking or drinking alcohol. All he liked was to taste and enjoy great tea. He wouldn't want to miss tea that was made from level 7 spiritual tea leaves. He didn't return to Embark. Instead, he flew towards Yongchang City directly. At this moment, there was still a huge pile of materials waiting for him to refine. Refining spiritual equipment was relatively more time-consuming as compared to refining elixir pills to Wang Xian. Therefore, he had to refine the materials piling up in his shop as soon as possible. When he reached Yongchang City, dawn had just broken. Ha! When Wang Xian arrived at his shop, he was surprised to see a burly young man standing at the entrance. The young man was roughly 2 meters tall and had an exceptionally burly build. He wore a long black robe and looked imposing. Behind him, he carried a huge sword that was roughly 2 meters long. Are you here to refine elixir pills or spiritual equipment? Wang Xian looked at the young man, took out his key and opened the doors to the shop. You are the master of this shop. Seeing Wang Xian opening the door, he asked this in a solemn and low voice. His voice was ordinary but had a unique dominance. Yeah. Get your materials ready. Wang Xian said plainly to the young man. I'm here because I wanted to modify this weapon of mine. The young man stepped into the shop and remarked with a straight face. Modify your weapon. Get your materials ready, leave the weapon you want to modify behind and write down your requirements for the modification. Wang Xian replied directly. I'd like to stay behind to watch. Moreover, I only have a set of materials. I can pay the rest with spiritual stones. The young man frowned and answered Wang Xian. Come again in half a month. I don't have time now. Wang Xian's eyebrows knitted together upon hearing him before answering plainly. You are going to help me modify today. The young man paid no attention to what Wang Xian had said. Ha! Wang Xian raised an eyebrow and looked at that young man. He had bushy eyebrows, thick lips, a burly stature and a naturally imposing demeanor. Get in the queue. Wang Xian said as he turned and headed to the second floor. Wang! Just as Wang Xian took the first step, a razor-sharp sword edge flashed across and blocked off his route. The blade was close to half a meter long and was emitting a chilling aura. Wang Xian squinted his eyes, turned around and stared at the young man. What? You want to fight now? Get it modified today. I won't pay you a single spiritual stone fewer. The young man stared at Wang Xian with his deep and black eyes as he remarked coldly. What if I say no? Seeing the attitude displayed by the young man, Wang Xian's expression turned solemn. He flicked his finger towards the sword edge. Caw. Sounds of mirrors cracking reverberated and the blade before Wang Xian collapsed instantly. Ha! You are pretty strong. The young man was surprised Wang Xian could crush his sword edge with a flick of his finger. He squinted his eyes to observe Wang Xian and said, I'll compensate you with sufficient spiritual stones. You have to help me modify my sword right now. Is this the attitude to have when you are asking me for a favor? Wang Xian looked at the young man with contempt and shouted, Get out. The young man was haughty and exceptionally conceited. He was requesting that Wang Xian modify his spiritual sword and yet showed Wang Xian a horrible attitude. Wang Xian wasn't lacking in spiritual stones at this moment. If the young man wasn't polite to him, he could afford to simply ignore him. Think before you talk. You are going to modify as I requested. I wouldn't be cheating you on the spiritual stones. When the young man heard Wang Xian, he was still emotionless. It was as though he was incapable of showing emotions. Gradually, he lifted his arm and drew the huge sword. The huge sword didn't have a sharp edge and looked extremely heavy. It was entirely black and seemed capable of absorbing sunlight. On it, streams of black water were flowing. This is... Wang Xian stared at the sword and was surprised. Level 12 spiritual equipment. Moreover, the water that was flowing on the surface wasn't ordinary water. Scram! Wang Xian shifted his gaze away, turned around and headed for the stairs once again. Wang! At this moment, the young man's arm trembled and a black-colored sword edge shot out from the huge sword towards the stairs where Wang Xian was heading. You must be eager to die. I'm asking you to get out and you shall get out now. Ruthlessness beamed in the eyes of Wang Xian. Moving the long sword in his hand, a huge mountain-shaped sword appeared below the black energy blade. Bam! A terrifying explosion reverberated and the immense energy was absorbed by the mountain-shaped sword. Sword Alps! And you are so skillful in it. The young man's eyes lit up. Waving the huge sword in his arm, shots of sword edge slashed towards Wang Xian like a strong storm. Sword edge storm. Seeing the young man attacking, Wang Xian moved. Mountain-shaped swords hovered around him as he started swinging the phantom sword. Sword edge storm. The same sword edge storm. However, Wang Xian's sword edge storm perfectly deflected the young man's sword edge storm as they continued their attacking paths towards the young man. Great! What a great use of sword edge storm! The young man was burning with passion. He placed the huge edgeless black sword across his body and one could see the black water energy flowing rapidly on it. Sword Alps. The same Sword Alps. TSK. Wang Xian snorted. He swung his sword in a cross-action as sword-shaped energy struck towards the young man. Thinking of breaking my defense? A wishful thought. The young man shouted and the huge sword in his hand started rotating. Bam! 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 The young man's sword edge storm and Wang Xian's sword edge storm hit their opponent at the same time but were stopped by their sword alps. Sword jail. However, the sword energy launched by Wang Xian trapped the young man directly. The burly young man lifted his head and was clearly shocked. 3 middle-class battle techniques. I had not expected you to have mastered 3 middle-class battle techniques. However, confidence quickly returned to the young man, shown in his expression. However, your sword jail won't be able to trap me. As he spoke, the huge sword before him glowed brightly. The black rays gradually pushed against the sword jail. Just get out. Wang Xian waved his arm and revealed a cold smirk. As he spoke, the sword jail enlarged and transformed into a 3 meters by 3 meters water region. The water region shrouded the young man. Wang Xian waved his arm. Boom! The entire water region appeared to have suffered catastrophic attacks. Intense and fierce water columns coalesced and smashed towards the young man. What? At this moment, the emotionless face of the young man finally revealed a different expression. His body flew out of the exit under the strong impact of water energy. Bam! The young man plunged his huge sword heavily into the ground and was completely shocked. So strong. This. How can this be possible? The young man looked out of sorts while staring blankly at the shop. Chapter 589, Serpent Sword, 2. How can this be possible? The young man murmured in a low voice as his body trembled. His eyes surged with a frantic fighting spirit. But subsequently, the fighting spirit in his eyes slowly disappeared. He looked at the huge sword in his hand and headed to the shop once again. How dare you come in again? Wang Xian had just arrived upstairs when he sensed the young man walking in again. He raised his eyebrows. If you ever dare to step in again, you can forget about walking out alive. A cold voice came from upstairs while the young man had a slight change in his expression. Master, refine my weapon. The young man took a deep breath as the space ring in his hand exuded beams of radiance. Bang, bang, bang. One by one, the spiritual stones flew into the room upstairs. The number of spiritual stones was massive. Within a few seconds, hundreds of thousands of spiritual stones went into the room. Wang Xian froze for a moment as he looked at the spiritual stones in his room in shock. Hundreds of thousands of spiritual stones was a significant figure. You want to modify your spiritual equipment? Wang Xian swept his gaze across the spiritual stones as he showed up at the stairs, overlooking the young man. Yes. The young man craned his neck, looking up and staring at Wang Xian. Apologize now, and I'll do it for you. Wang Xian quirked his lips as he spoke to the young man, monotone. Radiance flickered in the eyes of the young man as he furrowed his brows. I was reckless just now. I would like Master to modify my spiritual equipment, please. This should be the attitude. What were you doing just now? On account of the spiritual stones, come up. Wang Xian scorned the young man. The corner of the young man's lips twitched as he grasped his huge sword more tightly than ever. With some hesitation, he went up. A young budding realm expert. You're on par with Piao Lingxue. I guess you must be one of the supreme talents from De Hong Immortals sect. However, one should still learn to be polite at my place. Wang Xian cast an emotionless gaze at the young man as he stored 100,000 spiritual stones in his space ring. The young man came up while Wang Xian remained silent. Seeing him keeping quiet, the young man's hands that grabbed the huge sword tightened. This was the first time he had encountered such a situation, and the arrogant young man felt uneasy about it. But he could not win against Wang Xian, and he needed his help. Master, I would like to modify this sword. The young man took the initiative and spoke to Wang Xian. I can't modify level 12 spiritual equipment. Wang Xian cast a glance at that huge black-colored sword and spoke frankly. You don't have to modify too much of it. I just need something to be embedded on it. As the young man spoke, he put down one of his bags and opened it up before him. I just need to embed this on the sword. As a compelling master, this should be easy. The young man took out pieces of scale-like items. This is... Wang Xian narrowed his eyes as he gazed at the metal that looked like pieces of scales. A palm-sized material with a sharp tip. Serpent scale stones, level 12. There were hundreds of such level 12 metals. Serpent scale stones. Can you embed this on the huge sword? The young man looked at Wang Xian and asked him with a dead fish look. Wang Xian walked over and took out one of the serpent scale stones. Subsequently, he stretched his hands out and took over the huge sword in the young man's hand. Embedding the serpent scale stones on this huge edgeless sword would instantly enhance the power of this sword by a lot. On top of that, circulating the stones with energy could form a serpent. This was the feature of the serpent scale stones. One slash would bring out hundreds of serpents, tearing the enemy apart. Just the thought of it would make one tremble in his boots. Wang Xian took the serpent scale stones and the huge sword as he locked his brows. Given his level in art of water refining, he was unable to reforge it again. To embed them on the sword, there was only one method. Wang Xian looked towards the chest at the side and took out a type of metal from it. Xian metal, level 12. Xian metal was a unique metal that had a suction ability. This was one of the materials sent by a force for refining some equipment that was similar to chains. Wang Xian took a look at Xian metal, then the huge sword and serpent scale stones. Your spiritual stones are not enough. Wang Xian looked at the young man and spoke straightforwardly. Xian metal could be used to forge level 12 weapons after Wang Xian upgraded to level 9. Level 12 spiritual equipment cost at least 150,000 spiritual stones per piece. The 100,000 spiritual stones that the young man paid was indeed insufficient. Not enough. Wang Xian's words stunned the young man as he revealed a surprised look. Wang Xian looked at him and said, I need to consume level 12 Xian metal. Help me modify it first, and I'll not shortchange you any spiritual stones. The young man locked his brows as he spoke to Wang Xian. Great! Wang Xian nodded as he swung his arm and began his work. Level 12 Xian metal, for some reason, could melt at a rapid rate. With a swing, drops of Xian metal landed on the huge sword. Subsequently, he embedded the serpent scale stones on top of it. Taking into account the energy conductivity, the stones were not embedded in any random order. Wang Xian had to consider all aspects to make it work. Over hundreds of serpent scale stones were somewhat troublesome, and this slowed down the embedding speed by a lot. Phew! After 4 hours, Wang Xian had finally embedded all the serpent scale stones on the huge sword. At this time, the sword had already undergone a tremendous change. The entire huge and broad sword was already covered by the serpent scale stones with them protruding from the blade. The huge black sword had turned into some horrifying monster sword. Wang Xian held the hilt and circulated his water energy. Roar! A faint roaring sound was heard from it as sea serpents formed by the water energy began to sprout from the serpent scale stones. The entire sword had turned into a terrifying monster in an instant. Great sword! Wang Xian's eyes gleamed while the young man's eyes were burning with passion as his body was shaking. Give it to me. The young man reached out to grab the huge sword. Spiritual stones, said Wang Xian without any emotion as he did not hand it to him directly. I'll send them over tomorrow. The young man was expressionless as he fixed his eyes on that huge sword. Oh? Is that so? Wang Xian raised an eyebrow and stored the huge sword in his space ring. Send over the remaining 150,000 spiritual stones tomorrow, and I'll return the sword to you. I'll accept an equivalent amount of Xian metal which I consumed just now too. 150,000 spiritual stones? The young man darkened his expression immediately as soon as he heard Wang Xian. He stared hard at Wang Xian. Yes, 100,000 for workmanship fees, 150,000 for Xian metal. Give me Xian metal, and I can offset the 150,000 spiritual stones. Wang Xian looked at him and spoke with a smile. The young man was startled as his face turned black. However, he did not say anything. 100,000 spiritual stones was expensive for the workmanship, but it was, after all, level 12 spiritual equipment. This was the primary market price. In addition, there was nothing wrong with providing the level 12 materials that were consumed in the process. Give me the sword first, and I'll definitely give you the spiritual stones or whatever materials, the young man said with a sullen face. Don't even think about it. I'll give you back your sword whenever you have spiritual stones or materials. Otherwise, I'll keep your sword here. Wang Xian said to him plainly. Chapter 590, Gathering of the Supreme Talents. The young man was shocked. He frowned as his eyes were fixed on Wang Xian while he was feeling a little defeated. Piao Lingxue recommend you to me. I wouldn't undercompensate you regardless of whether it was spiritual stones or materials. After a few seconds of silence, the young man looked at Wang Xian and spoke. Piao Lingxue. Wang Xian's lips curved into a smile and he said, in that case, do you know that I also didn't hand Piao Lingxue her weapons when she did not have sufficient spiritual stones with her? The young man's jaw dropped and his emotionless face looked a little distracted. Overall, he looked a little weird. This afternoon. I'll bring spiritual stones over this afternoon, the young man said with a heavy expression. I'm not free in the afternoon. I'll be going out in a while. Come back tomorrow. Wang Xian replied plainly to the young man. He looked at the time and realized it was almost noon. I'm closing for the day. I'll be heading out. Wang Xian walked towards the stairs as he spoke. The young man pulled a long face while following Wang Xian, seeing him locking up the shop. His eyes burned with passion and fighting will as he saw the figure disappearing before him. However, a frown appeared on his face gradually. Wang Xian, we are going off now. Soon after arriving at Nfengyu and getting a short break in his simple room, Wang Xian heard a voice calling him from outside the room. All right, I'm coming. Wang Xian opened his eyes, got up from his bed with a smile and headed out. Outside the room, Yu Linger, Huayu and several other disciples were waiting for him. Senior brother Wang Xian. Several disciples greeted him warmly with a smile. Wang Xian nodded his head plainly and said, let's go. Mentor Yu is going with us too. We have to thank senior brother Wang Xian for making it possible for us to participate in today's spiritual tea session. Only the top 10 mountain seats are qualified to join. Several disciples looked at Wang Xian and spoke. Let's go. Mentor Yu arrived and led the group to fly towards where the spiritual tea session was being held on their swords. Mt Lingcha was located at the back of De Hong Immortal Sect. There were a dozen odd jade green spiritual tea trees growing above the waterfall. Within the stream connected to the waterfall, there were various tea-serving pots made out of wood. Each tea-serving pot was exquisitely crafted. There were 5 seats placed around each tea-serving pot. There were roughly 50 to 60 tea-serving pots across the entire stream. At this moment, many disciples had arrived. Those who could participate in the spiritual tea session were all elite disciples of various mountain sections. Other than young disciples, various mentors and the higher management personnel of Dahong Immortal sect were also present. The spiritual tea is made from leaves from level 7 spiritual trees. The effects are immense even if you are only drinking the tea. Remember to cultivate diligently and absorb the essence. Mentor Yu reminded the disciples around her. After finding a good spot, they sat down. Yes, Mentor Yu. The group of disciples nodded their heads. Subsequently, the group of 10 people from Nifengyu sat around 2 tea-serving pots. The water below them was roughly 2 meters deep. One could even see fishes swimming in the clear water. Having tea in this place was undoubtedly very enjoyable. Around the tea-serving pots were other pieces of tea wares and tea leaves that had been prepared in advance. Wang Xian took a deep sniff and the aroma of the tea assailed his nostrils. He poured some hot water over the tea leaves and started enjoying his tea slowly. As for the other disciples of Nifengyu, they threw all the leaves into the pot and gobbled down their tea in a mouthful. Their objectives were different from Wang Xian as they were after the energy encompassed within. As for Wang Xian, he was simply trying to enjoy the tea. This was indeed made from leaves from a level 7 spiritual tree. This isn't something that can be matched by tea leaves around. Drinking it could even increase my dragon energy. Wang Xian sipped on a bit and revealed a faint smile. Mentor Yu was also silently enjoying her tea. However, Mentor Yu stood up soon after and walked towards the front. Chirp chirp. The cries of swans could be heard from the sky. The surrounding people were conversing softly, making the place feel a little out of this world. As more and more people arrived, the surroundings got a little noisier. Paw paw. Spiritual tea is for enjoying and not for gobbling down. Hee hee. Other than that Dragon King, the rest in Nifengyu are all piles of trash. At this moment, ridicules resounded from the side. When the disciples from Nifengyu heard them, they jerked open their eyes and glowered at the group of people before them. The group had roughly 20 people. They were staring at the people from Nifengyu with contempt. Conceit was written over their faces as they stared down at the disciples of Nifengyu with a sense of superiority. When the disciples from Nifengyu saw the words embroidered on their outfits, they were furious but held back their displeasure. Hee hee. The group snorted and headed to the side before sitting down. Those people from Tileng are truly scornful. They are too overbearing. Several disciples from Nifengyu grumbled furiously. Tileng. Wang Xian turned his head around nonchalantly as he looked across. He realized the group were staring at him harshly. She's that girl with the almond-shaped eyes. Following which, the disciples from Tileng, who were next to the girl, started conversing softly. Wang Xian looked beyond them and indeed saw their mentor, Leng Yan, walking towards the front. Senior brother Hong Tianda is here. Who would have thought that senior brother Hong Tianda would come to this spiritual tea session? At this moment, exclamations broke out from various places. Countless disciples at the spiritual tea session looked ahead curiously. The young man was roughly 40 years old. He had an exceptionally burly stature and wore a straight face. It was as though everyone here owed him money. It was also his strong build and emotionless face that instilled fear in others. Tianyi swordsman, Hong Tianda. He's the pride of all disciples in the Hong Immortal sect. With his huge sword, he could defeat a whole crowd alone. Wang Xian heard a disciple standing by the side exclaiming. He's my idol. That's what the strongest disciple of the Hong Immortal sect should be. A while back, great senior brother Zheng Tianda fought with the strongest disciple from Yongchang Immortal sect. In the end, he lost by a move because of his weapon. If he had an equivalent weapon to the strongest disciple from Yongchang Immortal sect, the outcome wouldn't have been certain. Only senior sister Piao Lingxue and senior brother Ao Shuwen could possibly be compared with great senior brother. Even senior brother Su Fa is a little inferior to him. Wang Xian heard several other disciples commenting. It's him. Wang Xian looked at the burly young man. Isn't he that brat I met earlier today? Looking at his face, Wang Xian chuckled. He was pulling a long and dark face, although he still owed Wang Xian 150,000 spiritual stones. Wang Xian found this to be a little hilarious. So that's why he knew Piao Lingxue. So he is Hong Tianda, who I have heard so much about. And he's the strongest disciple of De Hong Immortal Sect. Wang Xian's eyes were fixed on him. When fighting with him a while back, he found this young man to be rather strong. He was even much stronger than Emperor Qi from Diabolism and Nie Wushuang from the Donghua Sacred Sect. However, when compared to the current Wang Xian, the strongest disciple of De Hong Immortal Sect wouldn't even pique Wang Xian's interest in battle. Piao Lingxue and the beautiful disciples from Mtixue are here too. Senior sister Piao Lingxue is truly a breathtaking beauty. The strongest and the second strongest disciples of De Hong Immortal Sect are here. Even the fourth-ranked senior brother Su Fa is here. We are just missing senior brother Ao Shuwen now. Chapter 591, Vendetta. With skin that was as fair as snow, and a sword that was as cold as frost, Piao Lingxue was the goddess in the current era of the entire De Hong Immortal Sect within Yongchang world. The only one that could be compared with her was a female disciple from Yongchang Immortal Sect. It was not an overstatement to say that Piao Lingxue was the dream girl of all the disciples of De Hong Immortal Sect. Her prestige was on par with the top-ranking disciple, Hong Tianda. Around Piao Lingxue stood the group of Mtixue's female disciples, which consisted of the top 20 disciples like Yao Beibei, Feng Bailing. All of them enjoyed a great reputation in the entire De Hong Immortal Sect. The appearance of Piao Lingxue and the female disciples of Mtixue drew the attention of all men as they observed them with glistening eyes. Wang Xian looked over, revealing a smile on his face, as he saw all familiar faces. Senior brother Ao Shuwen is here too. Senior brothers Ao Shuwen, Feng Haoxi, Tong Xiuping, Ming Ziyu, Lin Xingzhan are here. They are ranked 3rd, 6th, 9th, 11th and 14th respectively. These 5 senior brothers were on very good terms with senior brother Ao Shuwen as the lead. They are the ones who had the greatest strength in the entire De Hong Immortal Sect. All geniuses are always together. When will we have the chance to enter their circle? Unless you can make it to the top 20 of the De Hong Immortal Sect disciples, you can forget about entering their circle. At this time, exclamations of surprise kept coming with the arrival of those 5 disciples. The level of attention they got was not any less than Piao Lingxue or Hong Tianda. That was because 5 of them were the young supreme talents of the De Hong Immortal Sect. Her. Another familiar face? Wang Xian squinted his eyes as a tinge of coolness flashed in his eyes while he peered at the quintet. The 5 people before him were those 5 young men whom he had met at St. Forge workshop before. Enemies are bound to meet. Wang Xian took the teacup in front of him and took a sip without any expression. Hong Tianda, Piao Lingxue, and the quintet took seats around them. They possessed self-contempt as they looked nowhere, and sat down with cold arrogance. I did not expect her to be a proud goddess. Looking at Piao Lingxue, who appeared almost as a proud swan in the sky, Wang Xian could only give a faint smile. Compared to the Piao Lingxue who he had known previously, the current one was more superior and aloof. The spiritual tea session once again quieted down after the disciples walked in. One by one, they sipped the tea, digested it, and converted it into energy. Pack! Leng Yan, watch your mouth. After about 10 minutes, the sharp sound of the breaking of a tea set was heard along with the voice of Mentor Yu. Everyone was startled as they looked ahead. Wait, Qianmei. I can't even talk about it. Humph. Bam. When everyone craned and looked up, they were shocked to see Mentor Yu and Leng Yan engaging in a fight above their heads. Sigh, not again. Some of them sighed as several elders stood in the air, watching the two of them with helpless faces. The grudge between Mentor Yu and Mentor Leng will never be resolved for the rest of their entire lives. How could it be resolved? Back then, Ling Aofeng killed Emperor Yu and the top-notch disciples of Emdifeng Yu with the use of unorthodox combat methods, including level 13 spiritual equipment and an array. Even though Ling Aofeng had his limbs hacked off, he was only imprisoned for 10 years because of God Leng. This grudge is not easy to resolve unless one of them is totally defeated. At this time, some of the disciples were whispering. Wang Xian looked over and saw Yu Linger standing up in rage. Some of the disciples of Emdifeng Yu were also glowering at Leng Yan in the sky with furious looks. This was obviously not the first time that the surrounding disciples witnessed the fight between Mentor Yu and Mentor Leng. There were right and wrong back then. Ling Aofeng might be a descendant of God Leng, but Emperor Yu was, after all, the unofficial disciple of God Yin. He also felt guilty towards Emperor Yu. Hence, he would never let Mentor Yu and his daughter come into harm's way. Yes, such a grudge cannot be resolved. Luckily, they stop after each fight. Some of the surrounding disciples continued to exchange conversations in whispers. Wang Xian was listening to the story that some of the disciples were talking about as he looked up to the sky. Both Mentor Yu and Leng Yan were withholding a daunting sense of murderous intent. However, the members of higher management of De Hong Immortal sect was watching, and thus, no one would get killed. Yu Qianmei, don't assume that you have an extraordinary disciple in your mountain sect. Humph. To me, he's just a little worthless brat. Those outstanding disciples that Emdifeng Yu once had are gone by now. Leng Yan's sarcastic, cold voice came from the sky as she wanted to irritate Mentor Yu. If not for that despicable Ling Aofeng, how would Emdifeng Yu have come to such a state? MT Leng has only insidious villains. Mentor Yu's voice in the sky was filled with killing intent as she confronted her. Humph, it was obvious that Emdifeng Yu lost to us. Now you smeared our name by saying we're despicable. How shameless. Suddenly, a scornful voice was heard not far away from Emdifeng Yu's side. You. Upon hearing their words, Emdifeng Yu's disciples immediately spun around with anger. What is it? Seeing the Emdifeng Yu disciples turning around to look at them, the disciples of Emtileng revealed sarcastic faces. A bunch of trash from Emdifeng Yu. If you're not convinced, we can go to the arena and cripple you guys. They glared at them disdainfully. Emtileng was currently the third mountain sect in the ranking of De Hong Immortal sects. They had over 200 disciples, which was 10 times more than Emdifeng Yu. A few pieces of trash are not qualified to take part in a spiritual tea session. Any disciples we pull from our mountain sect could easily annihilate the insignificant Emdifeng Yu. Several Emtileng disciples exuded a surge of domineering aura. The group of Emdifeng Yu disciples paled instantly, revealing dreadful expressions. Comparing the inborn disciples of Emdifeng Yu and the lowest level, half-step to Dan realm, of Emtileng, the difference was too huge. It was not a fight within the same league. Senior brother Su Fa, that's the so-called Dragon King. At this time, the almond-shaped-eyed girl beside a young man pointed at Wang Xian. Really? Dragon King? Hee, I've long wanted to meet him in person. The young man by the name of Su Fa looked at Wang Xian before he swept his gaze across the Emdifeng Yu disciples. Emdifeng Yu? Dragon King? They are just some trash that are not even worthy of carrying the shoes of Emtileng's disciples. Su Fa sneered with a cold smile. Since the mentors from Emdifeng Yu and Emtileng shared a vendetta, naturally, the disciples from the two mountain sects would not be on good terms. But Emdifeng Yu was too weak to be compared with Emtileng. If not for that Dragon King, Emdifeng Yu would not have been ranked in the 10th position. Disciples of Emtileng could not be bothered as they totally disregarded the opponent that looked like trash to them. Chapter 592, The Damsels Rescuing the Hero. Su Fa spoke coldly to the group of people from Emdifeng Yu. The other disciples from Emtileng also stared at Wang Xian and the group with contempt. They had no regard for them at all. Even if Emdifeng Yu was ranked as the 10th strongest mountain sect currently. As they spoke, terrifying auras shrouded towards the crowd from Ndifengyu. The auras from Dan realm experts weren't something that inborn disciples could withstand. The disciples from Ndifengyu turned pale and gritted their teeth instantly as though they were small and helpless boats on the rough seas. Trying to exert your dominance over us with your aura? Wang Xian lifted the cup before him as he stared coldly towards Su Fa, who was in the middle of the group of disciples from Mtleng. We can also settle it in the arena. Su Fa looked at Wang Xian with ridicule. Dragon King. So what if you defeated Kong Guanlin easily? Although others have said you have the strength to rank among the top 10 disciples, I wonder, how many moves will you last against me? No matter whether it is imposing our dominance or settling things in the arena, you guys from Ndifengyu are trash to us regardless of whether it's the present or the future. So what if you are the Dragon King? Su Fa lifted his head proudly and had no respect for Wang Xian at all. His voice reverberated throughout the entire spiritual tea session. This is. Mentor Yu and Mentor Leng are fighting it out above and the disciples of the two mountain sects are going against one another here? That's a given. Considering that their mentors are fighting it out, how could the disciples be sitting there? It's only natural that they should try to crush the other sect. Mtfengyu isn't in the same tier as Mtleng. Even when the Dragon King has shot up on the charts recently, they still couldn't be compared with Mtleng. Mtleng has Ao Shuwen and Su Fa. No matter whether it is imposing dominance over the other or settling things in the arena, the disciples from Ndifengyu are completely outclassed. They would just be tortured. Is that young man the Dragon King? He sure knows how to act cool. Everyone is standing there and yet he sits by the side and enjoys his tea. He. He's just going to be beaten up for trying to act cool. When the surrounding crowd heard Su Fa, they smirked and were just waiting to see a show. They enjoyed their tea and had some food while watching the conflict between disciples from Mtleng and Ndifengyu. In a way, this was rather entertaining. The only shame was that Ndifengyu was too weak. It would be an overwhelming defeat and thus the crowd was a little disinterested. More people were focusing on Wang Xian. They were interested to see what the Dragon King really looked like. That kid is still as scornful as before. Standing beside Ao Shuwen, Tong Xiuping stared harshly at Wang Xian as he remarked. Brother Ao, the disciples from your Mtleng have a conflict with the other group. Why don't we head over and teach that guy a lesson? The other young man, Feng Haoxi, smirked as he spoke. There's no need to. Just leave this to Su Fa. A meager Dragon King isn't qualified to warrant us taking actions ourselves. Ao Shuwen looked across nonchalantly, sipped on his spiritual tea and spoke with a smile. Huh. You're right. Su Fa from your mountain sect would be enough to teach that brat a good lesson. Tong Xiuping and a few other young men commented with smiles. Ha! That is. At this moment, where the disciples of Mt Shui were standing, Yao Beibei and Feng Bailing were looking in the direction of Mtfengyu and Mtleng out of curiosity. Suddenly, someone caught their eye. Piao Lingxue was also looking at Wang Xian who was sitting there. So he's here too. Piao Lingxue thought to herself. Master! It's that handsome master. Yao Beibei and Feng Bailing weren't aware that Wang Xian was the Dragon King. They also didn't know that Wang Xian was a disciple from Ndifengyu. Seeing Wang Xian, they were astonished. However, excitement beamed in their eyes. Other disciples from Mt Shui were also astonished to see Wang Xian. Great senior sister, that. Feng Bailing pointed at Wang Xian. Her eyes widened and her jaw dropped as she exclaimed, he's that handsome master from Yongchang City. Yeah. Piao Lingxue nodded her head. Great senior sister, did you know that handsome master is a disciple of the Dahong Immortal sect? Upon seeing Piao Lingxue's response, the surrounding disciples from Mt Shui asked this in astonishment. Yeah, I knew that Wang Xian is the Dragon King. It's just that I did not expect him to be here today. Piao Lingxue answered. The master that was unparalleled in refining elixir pills and equipment. He was the most famous master in the entire Yongchang city currently. His name had almost reached the entire Yongchang world by now. How dare the people from Tiling try to bully handsome master? Let's go. Let's go support the handsome master. Let's go. Who is more talented than that master in the entire Yongchang city? I had not expected that master to be the Dragon King. He's too cool. Let's head over. Let's head over. The disciples of Mtishue stared at Wang Xian with excitement. Even Yao Beibei and Feng Bailing were staring at Wang Xian with fervent eyes. The group of girls had all hoped for a romantic occasion with an insanely talented alchemist master and blacksmith master. All the disciples from Mtishue stood up and headed towards Wang Xian. Damsel saving the hero. They were thinking of saving Wang Xian. Piao Lingxue chuckled. She stood up and followed behind. Where are the beautiful girls from Mtishue heading to? The surrounding disciples from various mountain sects were surprised to see the female disciples from Mtishue standing up. At the other end, Wang Xian put down the teacup in his hand while looking at the crowd of arrogant disciples from Mtileng. He stood up, stared at Su Fei and remarked emotionlessly, "Let's meet in the arena. No one is to blame for any death." Huh. Great. You are indeed the Dragon King. Your courage is really commendable. Su Fei was taken aback by what Wang Xian said. However, he broke into laughter soon after and replied, "Arena? No one is to blame for any deaths. Let it be then." Huh. As he spoke, the smile on his face deepened. His eyes were locked on Wang Xian as he continued ridiculing him. It seems like I'm going to be the warrior that slays a dragon. This. The Dragon King is challenging Su Fei in the arena? No one is to be blamed for any death. Damn. How stupid is he? Su Fei is currently ranked 5th and has reached the half-step to budding realm. Isn't he courting his own death? Interesting. This is going to be interesting. I was thinking Mdifengyu would be completely crushed. Who would have thought that the Dragon King wouldn't back down? Great! Great! When the surrounding disciples of Dahong Immortal sect heard their conversation, their eyes lit up with excitement. Those female disciples from Mtishue that were walking towards Wang Xian frowned, quickened their pace and said, "You are really arrogant to speak of slaying the dragon. If you are challenging Master Dragon King, you have to get past me first. Is Mfeng trying to impose his dominance over Mdifengyu? Retract your aura and don't push things too hard." Just as the disciples from Mtileng were smiling proudly and releasing their aura towards Wang Xian and the other disciples of Mdifengyu, sharp voices resounded suddenly. These voices and what happened were heard and seen clearly by the surrounding disciples. What's the situation? What are the disciples from Mtishue doing? Why are they helping the disciples from Mdifengyu? The surrounding disciples were taken aback. Even the disciples from Mtileng was stunned. However, what was truly shocking to them was seeing the female disciples crowding towards Wang Xian as though they were diehard fans of his. "Handsome master, I had not expected you to be the Dragon King. You are really too stunning. Wah! I want to be your girlfriend. Dragon King, Dragon King. This name is truly domineering. Can you give me your autograph?" Chapter 593, Contest 1. What's going on? What is this? All the mountain sect disciples were stunned as they watched Wang Xian being surrounded by a group of female disciples from Mtishue. The female disciples in their eyes looked like some girls who were obsessed with guys, including Yao Beibei and Feng Bailing. They were the next strongest disciples after Piao Lingxue, and ranked 7th and 8th respectively. They were absolutely talented young ladies of Dahong Immortal sect and goddesses in the eyes of Dahong Immortal sect's disciples. They were only second to Piao Lingxue. Yet, these two goddesses were standing by the sides, addressing Dragon King as the handsome master. They even declared that anyone who wished to challenge the Dragon King would need to get past her first. What? What was going on? Gosh, my goddess! One of the mountain sect disciples could not help but widen his eyes with disbelief as he watched the event unfolding. The overall strength of Mt Shui was ranked second, which was higher than Mt Leng. Moreover, the disciples of Mt Shui, who were presented here today, were all renowned figures. Everyone had their own reputation, but yet, they were encircling Dragon King. At the sight of this, all of them revealed shocked expressions. Even those people from Mt Leng, including Su Fa, were slightly awkward expressions. Seeing the Mt Shui disciples glaring at them furiously, Su Fa's expression darkened. Juniors of Mt Shui, this is between Mt Leng and Mt Fengyu. Do you want to intervene in the business between two mountain sects? That's right. Ladies, this is a grudge between us and Mt Fengyu. Mt Shui had better not get involved in this and hurt our friendship. Su Fa and another disciple from Mt Leng spoke in a dull voice as they looked at Yao Beibei and Feng Bailing. Why has it got nothing to do with us? Dragon King's business is our business. However, a female disciple of Mt Shui looked up and answered as soon as Su Fa and the rest finished their statements. That's right, I might be marrying into Mt Fengyu in the future. Hee, this has certainly got something to do with me. Another female disciple threw Wang Xian a broad smile. For a moment, the group of people from Mt Leng put on dark faces after hearing what the female disciples said. The surrounding disciples from other mountain sects twitched their lips involuntarily. Fuck, when did Dragon King establish such a good relationship with the female disciples from Mt Shui? And why did the female disciples fancy him so much? This almost caused them to cough out blood. So Mt Shui is bent on going against Mt Leng? Asked a female disciple of Mt Leng coldly as she stared at the group of disciples from Mt Shui. The aura around her intensified. Yeah, so what if we do? Boom! Seeing that demeanor exhibited from the female disciple of Mt Leng, the rest of the Mt Shui disciples did not give in as they exuded the aura from their bodies. The lowest level of cultivation among the girls was half-step to Dan realm. There was no concealment to their imposing aura when they confronted the people from Mt Leng. You guys! Sensing the incoming aura, the female disciple of Mt Leng paled. Seeing how things developed, Su Fa took a step forward with a solemn expression. His aura went against them as he stared at Mt Shui disciples with beaming eyes. At this moment, it was the dignity of Mt Leng at stake. Even though the other party was Mt Shui, they could not retreat directly. In my opinion, Mt Leng's people should get going. Just then, an impassive voice was heard with Piao Lingxue walking from behind. What? Seeing Piao Lingxue dropping warnings as she stalked over, the group of Mt Leng disciples had a huge change in their expressions. Even Su Fa, who was standing in front, had a tinge of fear flashing in his eyes. Dreadful looks surfaced on all the faces of people from Mt Leng. Piao Lingxue actually spoke for Mt Fengyu and Dragon King. She was the second disciple of the entire Yongchang Immortal Sect, the supreme talent of Yongchang world. SSS, Piao Lingxue spoke up to protect the Dragon King. What the hell is going on here? Seriously? Piao Lingxue actually went over and spoke up for him. The rest of the mountain sect disciples found it astonishing. A disciple like Piao Lingxue was above almost all the other disciples. The future member of higher management of Immortal Sect was now speaking for Dragon King. This could offend all of Mt Leng. Even though members of higher management were no longer limited to any mountain sects, they must still pay attention to their behavior. Dragon King. Piao Lingxue came over and greeted him without any emotion. Miss Piao. Wang Xian gave a smile and a nod to Piao Lingxue before he turned to the rest of the female disciples of Mt Shui. Thank you, pretty ladies. Hee, you're welcome. The group of disciples shook their heads with beaming faces. Her. From the side, Ao Shuan furrowed his brows tightly when he noticed the situation. Brother Ao, shall we go over? Tong Xiuping gazed quizzically as he asked Ao Shuan. Let's go. Ao Shuan took a brief glance at Mentor Yu and Mentor Leng, who were still engaged in a fight. With flickering eyes, he walked towards the place where Mt Leng was gathered. As the leader of Mt Leng, he could not ignore this anymore. Brother Ao, let me get some more people. I'll also get some guys from our mountain sect. Now that Brother Ao has Water Shark, Piao Lingxue might not necessarily be your match in combat. Lin Xingjian, Tong Xiuping, Feng Haoxi, and Ming Ziyu spoke to Ao Shuwen. Ao Shuwen looked at the long sword in his hand with his lips quirked. With level 12 spiritual equipment, he did not think that his current strength would lose out to Piao Lingxue. On top of that, he felt that he could challenge Hong Tianda too. This is an issue between MT Leng and MT Fengyu. MT Shui should not meddle in it. Ao Shuwen walked to MT Leng without any expression. Following behind him, Lin Xingjian and Tong Xiuping beckoned towards a group of people from two sides. The 6th-ranked mountain sect MT Xingyun. The 7th-ranked mountain sect MT Wu. Lin Xingjian and Tong Xiuping were two leaders of these two mountain sects, and they enjoyed a high degree of prestige within the mountain sections. When the duo beckoned, the disciples from two mountain sects walked over immediately as they knew what their leaders were up to. This, senior brother Ao Shuwen went over. The few people around him also followed him. On top of that, Lin Xingjian and Tong Xiuping even called out people from their mountain sects. What are they doing? This has got to do with the face of the mountain sect, and not personal emotions anymore. MT Shui's disciples already embarrassed MT Leng. Senior brother Ao Shuwen could no longer stand around and watch. Do you think they will be sparring? Hard to say. The people from the 6th and 7th ranked mountain sects already went over. By strength, senior brother Ao Shuwen has the strongest alliance in the entire De Hong Immortal sect. The 4 people around him are the super geniuses of the top 20. Chapter 594, Contest 2. In the entire De Hong Immortal sect, everyone knew Hong Tianda was a cold lone warrior. Hong Tianda had devoted all his attention to cultivation and had few friends. Moreover, he also had a cold personality. His pride was unmatched and he rarely spoke. Although Piao Lingxue wasn't as cold as Hong Tianda, she didn't appear before the public eyes frequently either. Only the disciples of MT Shui had seen her as their leader. Ao Shuwen was different. His family was close to the Lin family, Tong family, Feng family and Ming family. Therefore, he often hung around with Lin Xingjian, Tong Xiuping and the rest. Lin Xingjian and the other 3 had also regarded Ao Shuwen as their leader. The influence of the 5 of them could be considered the strongest among all the disciples in De Hong Immortal sect. Things have gotten a little out of hand. I wonder how this is going to end. The disciples from other mountain sects gasped as they watched the developments intensely. Some higher management members of De Hong Immortal sect also looked across curiously. However, they averted their gazes soon after. The reason why De Hong Immortal sect was divided into various mountain sects was to prevent the long period of peace eroding the drive and motivation of their disciples away. Therefore, De Hong Immortal sect had divided their disciples into mountain sections. The stronger the mountain sect, the more resources it would be allocated. The stronger their disciples were, the more benefits they would receive. Through this, they hoped to increase the overall strength of the immortal sect. This method had proven highly effective, as the overall strength of the immortal sect had been constantly increasing. Some battles between mountain sects were allowed. Even if the disciples from different mountain sects were engaging in group life and death battles, the immortal sect wouldn't interfere. Everyone from MT Shui and senior sister Piao Lingxue, are you sure you guys would want to be involved in the matters between our MT Leng and MT Fengyu? Ao Shuwen walked across, stared at Piao Lingxue and remarked plainly. You guys have to think this through. Ao Shuwen led a group of people over and spoke to Piao Lingxue directly. Piao Lingxue raised an eyebrow, turned to Ao Shuwen and looked across the group of people that had come with him. What are you gonna do if we want to interfere? Remarked Piao Lingxue plainly. If you guys are interfering, your MT Shui better be careful during the grand contest of mountain sects. Ao Shuwen reminded Piao Lingxue in an emotionless tone. Oh, is this a threat? A flash of coldness appeared on Piao Lingxue's face as she looked across the disciples of MT Xingyun and MT Wu. The grand contest of mountain sects was different from ordinary challenges. This contest was also to showcase the overall strength of a mountain sect. Confined within an area, whichever mountain sect could last the longest would get a better ranking. During the contest, mountain sects were free to form their own alliances. As the rewards for the grand contest of mountain sects were overwhelmingly great, it was a grand affair each year. Ao Shuwen was clearly warning Piao Lingxue. Nope. I'm just hoping that everyone from Dishua won't participate in the feud between Mdifengyu and us. Ao Shuwen remarked plainly. The sword in his hand started glowing with blue light. One could see a miniature shark swimming on it. The aura around Ao Shuwen's sword instantly attracted the attention of all the disciples. Level 12 Spiritual Weapon. The spiritual sword that senior brother Ao Shuwen is holding is definitely a level 12 spiritual weapon. He changed his weapon. Level 12 spiritual weapon. Oh gosh. Senior brother Ao Shuwen can almost definitely challenge Piao Lingxue. This is insane. The surrounding disciples exclaimed as they stared at the spiritual sword in Ao Shuwen's hand. The conversation between Ao Shuwen and Piao Lingxue. The standoff between MT Shui and MT Leng. Everyone in the area was now looking across. Even the disciples at the very front looked over out of curiosity. So he's a disciple of De Hong Immortal Sect. What a surprise! Moreover, he's the Dragon King from Mdifengyu. At this moment, the burly Hong Tianda who was standing near the front stared at Wang Xian while mumbling to himself. The most famous and outstanding master with demon-like talents in blacksmithing and alchemy. More impressively, he was a terrifyingly strong expert. Recalling his exchanges with Wang Xian earlier in the day, Hong Tianda couldn't help but feel a little helpless. Earlier in the day, although the moves were simple and the duration was short, he could still catch a glimpse of how terrifying that young man was. He had been confident that he was peerless among the disciples in De Hong Immortal Sect. Yet, he was completely overwhelmed in a brief exchange of blows. He even threw up blood. No disciples in De Hong Immortal Sect would be a match for him. Hong Tianda stared at that figure before looking at the additional space ring around his finger. The next moment, he stood up. Ha! MT Gyuman was the strongest mountain sect in De Hong Immortal Sect. The disciples from MT Gyuman were shocked to see Hong Tianda standing up and heading to one side. Without any hesitation, they stood up and followed behind Hong Tianda. This was the strongest disciple of MT Gyuman. Similarly, he was the strongest disciple in the entire De Hong Immortal Sect. 50,000 spiritual stones and a small space ring. As for the shortfall, I will give them to you the next day. Hong Tianda walked to Wang Xian and spoke in his solemn tone. Ha! 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 Just as Ao Shuwen and Piao Lingxue, MT Leng and MT Shui were facing off, a voice had broken the silence. Everyone was stunned. They turned around and were surprised to see Hong Tianda. When they saw Hong Tianda throw a space ring towards Wang Xian, their jaws dropped. What's the situation now? Damn! Hong Tianda is also close to the Dragon King. What is Hong Tianda trying to show by walking towards Wang Xian now? This. Could it be that the Dragon King, Hong Tianda and Piao Lingxue are really close to one another? Are they going to side with the Dragon King? The sudden arrival of Hong Tianda and him throwing a space ring to Wang Xian had shocked the surrounding disciples. What was the significance of Hong Tianda walking over under these circumstances? All the disciples from MT Leng were stunned too as they stared blankly at Hong Tianda. Just a while ago, they were surprised to see the female disciples from MT Shui walking over to support the Dragon King. And now, even Hong Tianda had walked over. What was the significance of him acting like this? Clearly, he was making his stand known to all. Hong Tianda. Ao Shuwen's pupils turned towards Hong Tianda and constricted. His expression had also turned a little more bitter. Hong Tianda was the strongest disciple of De Hong Immortal Sect and MT Gyuman. Ha! The space ring is too small. I'll count it as 50,000. You still owe me 50,000 spiritual stones. Wang Xian was a little surprised to see Hong Tianda walking towards him. However, he still caught the ring with a smile and replied to him plainly. What? Senior brother Hong Tianda owes the Dragon King spiritual stones? This. How did the Dragon King get to know Piao Lingxue and senior brother Hong Tianda? The strongest disciple of our immortal sect owes him spiritual stones. When the disciples from various mountain sects heard their conversation, they blanked out and felt that this was unbelievable. Chapter 595, Here for Your Death, 1. The strongest disciple of De Hong Immortal Sect, Hong Tianda. The second strongest disciple of De Hong Immortal Sect, Piao Lingxue. The two of them and the mountain sects behind them. After Hong Tianda tossed the space ring to Wang Xian, he did not leave. Standing quietly, he cast a brief glance at Ao Shuwen. No words from him, just a burly figure standing over there. Yet, his attitude was apparent. Noticing such a situation, the disciples of Mtiling gasped hard with trepidation in their eyes. Both Tong Xioping and Lin Xingzhan were stupefied as they looked dumbfoundedly at the Mtiguman disciples and the soundless Hong Tianda. The burly figure had brought about immense oppression to them. The disciples from Mtixingyun and Mtiwu behind swallowed their saliva without knowing. How could they go against the top two mountain sects of De Hong Immortal Sect? This is a joke. Ao Shuwen clenched his fists as he gradually turned to Wang Xian. It was unexpected to him that this Dragon King was actually acquainted with Piao Lingxue and Hong Tianda. They had even stepped forward to help him. This was something that caught him off guard. Phew! Since senior brother Hong Tianda and senior sister Piao Lingxue are standing in defense of Mfengyu and the Dragon King, Mtileng will stop making things difficult for them. We need to give face to our senior brother and sister. Ao Shuwen took a deep breath and spoke in a low voice. In the face of Piao Lingxue, he dared to be tough, and even so with Hong Tianda. But facing both of them together at the same time was something Ao Shuwen would not dare to try. All the more, the Mtiling disciples following behind dared not utter a word. At this moment, even the genius disciples who were as strong as Su Fa dared not say anything in front of them. Even Su Fa would not dare to provoke them. Ha, Ao Shuwen, Mtiling, and the few of you will not make things difficult for us? Just as Ao Shuwen's voice trailed off, Wang Xian quirked his lips and revealed a smirk. What do you mean by making things difficult? Let's have a fight then. As he said, he swept his gaze across those people coldly. Ao Shuwen and the rest of the people beside him threw Wang Xian razor-sharp and icy cold gazes. Hee, Dragon King. If not for senior brother Hong Tianda and senior sister Piao Lingxue, you'd be lying here dead today, said Su Fa to Wang Xian impassively. Brat, have you found your alchemy shop? Lin Xingzhan and Tong Xioping sneered while fixing their eyes on Wang Xian. Ao Shuwen craned his head slightly as he gazed coldly at Wang Xian with aloofness in his eyes. Wang Xian took a brief look at them before he walked towards the back with a smile. He came to a spot 200 meters away. Everyone stared at him with quizzical looks. What is the Dragon King trying to do? Handsome Dragon King, what are you doing? Some of the disciples from other mountain sects and Mtixue asked in surprise. I'm drawing this ground as the arena. Ao Shuwen, the four fellows behind you, and you, come over. Wang Xian stretched out his hand and pointed to 6 people, including Ao Shuwen. Wang Xian's act swept everyone with surprise. Drawing the ground as the arena? Challenging senior brother Ao Shuwen, Tong Xioping, Lin Xingzhan, Su Fa, Feng Haoxi, Ming Ziyu? What is he doing? Is he out of his mind? Digging his own grave? Getting in the arena means that killings are allowed. He actually dared to draw an arena for senior brother Ao Shuwen and the rest. He must be either out of his mind or he's lost his senses. Darn, this fucking Dragon King is the most arrogant fellow I have ever seen. His strength is at most ranked top 10. Now he's actually issued a challenge to senior brother Ao Shuwen and the rest. Any one of the senior brothers could easily deal with him, let alone senior brother Ao Shuwen. The surrounding mountain sect's disciples were startled when they witnessed Wang Xian's actions. Immediately, they began discussing among themselves. The Dragon King was challenging 6 people, including senior brother Ao Shuwen. He was a budding realm expert, in the top 3 disciples of De Hong Immortal sect. Not only did the surrounding disciples freeze, but even Ao Shuwen and Su Fa, whose names were called out, were stunned. Challenging us? A taunting look surfaced on Su Fa's face as he fixed his eyes on Wang Xian. Senior brother Ao Shuwen doesn't even have to strike. I could easily cripple you alone. Since you're asking for your death, I'll give it to you. As he spoke, he turned to Piao Lingxue and Hong Tianda at the side. Senior brother Hong Tianda, senior sister Piao Lingxue, he taunted us first, not that we're making things difficult for him. The deadpan Piao Lingxue slowly nodded. Fate determines who shall be killed in arena matches. Hong Tianda spat out the words without emotion. Fate determines who shall be killed in arena matches. The rules stated so, but very few people would kill each other in the arena. That's right. Fate determines who shall be killed in arena matches. Ao Shuwen drew his lips slowly as he looked at Wang Xian. With a tinge of ridicule in his eyes, he said, "You're still not worthy of being my opponent." That's right. You are not worthy to fight with brother Ao. Just leaving it to me will do. Lin Xingzhan lifted his head and yelled at Wang Xian. Huh, me too. Let me test the strength of the Dragon King and see how much he has got for him to be so arrogant. Tong Xiuping burst out a clap of laughter as he took 2 steps forward. 6 of you just came forward together. Nice. I can kill a nest of you in one shot. Wang Xian stared at the 6 of them coldly. Wang Xian, stop. At this time, an anxious voice cut through the air from the sky. Mentor Yu's figure flew over. She was in a somewhat pitiful state when she stared at Wang Xian and yelled, "Withdraw your arena and fight with them. The arena has already been set up. How can you withdraw it?" "Haha, Shuwen, Su Fa, go on. Kill that brazen brat of Yu for me." Another shrill sound came from the sky. With a similar pitiful look, Mentor Leng swept her cold gaze at Mentor Yu and Wang Xian. Her lips were drawn with murderous intent. "Aunt, don't worry. Let us handle this." Ao Shuwen looked at Mentor Leng and replied with a smile. "No, Wang Xian. Your strength." Mentor Yu, who came to Wang Xian, was looking worried as she tried to persuade Wang Xian once again. "Mentor Yu, don't worry." Wang Xian shook his head at Mentor Yu. "This is bad. Great senior sister, the handsome master is issuing a challenge to Ao Shuwen and the rest. If they really fight." The rest of the female disciples of Mtishue revealed a concerned look as they shouted to Piao Lingxue with tender voices. "Rest assured, he's the master of the art of water refining." Without the slightest worry, Piao Lingxue cast her gaze to the Mtishue disciples and assured them in a soft voice. "Art of water refining, oh yes. Handsome master possesses the art of water refining. Hey, wait. So his strength." These female disciples were slightly stunned as shocked looks slowly surfaced on their faces. The proficiency in art of water refining had something to do with the cultivator's strength. To become a master, his strength should be at least at budding realm. At the thought of this, the female disciples of Mtishue revealed more shocked looks. Chapter 596, Here for Your Death, 2. Wang Xian, you aren't a match for Ao Shuwen and his group. Come, let's go back. Mentor Yu frowned while looking at Wang Xian. Clearly, she didn't believe he would be a match for Ao Shuwen and the other 5 youths. On the other end, a flash of ruthlessness beamed in the eyes of Mentor Leng upon seeing how flustered Mentor Yu was. She looked to Ao Shuwen and made a hidden gesture. So Shuwen nodded his head, looked towards Su Fa, Tong Xiuwen and the rest and said, go. Let him remain here forever. A cold and ruthless voice came from Ao Shuwen. He didn't make a move himself and simply stared harshly from the side. A Dragon King still wasn't deserving of him taking action personally. Alright, senior brother Ao. I'll be able to kill that brat myself. Su Fa nodded his head and bloodlust gleamed in his eyes. Finish him together so nothing could go wrong. We cannot let anyone hear him admitting his defeat. Mentor Leng remarked from the sideline. Yes, Mentor Leng. After receiving the orders from Mentor Leng and Ao Shuwen, killing intent flashed in the eyes of Su Fa, Tong Xiuwen and the rest. They moved and appeared before Wang Xian instantly. The five of them stood there and glared harshly at Wang Xian. Come. I'm going to slay the dragon today. Hee hee. Ruthlessness gleamed in the eyes of Su Fa as he looked down on Wang Xian. Mentor you, move away right now. Are you choosing to break the rules? Mentor Leng shrieked with a smile. Mentor you, don't worry. Wang Xian looked at Mentor Yu who was right beside him. He moved the space ring on his finger and a huge sword appeared in the next instant. The huge sword was 2 meters long, half a meter wide, had a bulging blade and was wrapped in a white cloth. Let me test out your sword. Wang Xian rested the huge sword on his shoulders, looked at Hong Tianda and spoke with a smile. Ha! Mentor Yu was taken aback as she looked at the space ring on Wang Xian's finger and eventually at the huge sword. This. She was pleasantly surprised and hesitated for a moment before retreating 100 meters away. Hong Tianda wasn't pleased to see Wang Xian taking out his sword. This was something he had looked forward to and yet could only have it the next day. Senior brother Hong, that is. When Piao Lingxue saw the huge sword in Wang Xian's hand, doubt surfaced in her mind as she asked Hong Tianda softly. Yeah. After a single word, he stopped. Hee hee. It would appear that he didn't show senior brother Hong any face either. At the thought of Hong Tianda tossing a space ring to Wang Xian previously, Piao Lingxue grinned. Hong Tianda didn't respond to her. Dragon King, you don't have to worry. I'll be enough to handle you and I'll be the only one attacking. When Su Fa saw Wang Xian retrieving the huge sword, he grinned and continued. Do you think you will be as incredible as senior brother Hong Tianda just because you are using his sword? In that case, senior brother Su Fa, you can go first. We will stay around him and prevent him from admitting his defeat. Tong Xiuwen and the rest spoke with a smile and had no regard for Wang Xian at all. Go! Yu Qianmei, I'll show you how the most outstanding disciple of Emtifeng you shall fall. Mentor Leng stared at Mentor Yu with ecstasy. Mentor Yu didn't respond to her taunts and simply stood by the side and watched. Aren't you coming too? Oh well, let me collect some interest from the other 5 first. Wang Xian lowered the huge sword to the ground and looked across the 5 of them before him. Just another brat that is going to die soon. Su Fa stared at Wang Xian with smiles and drew his long sword slowly. The other 4 also drew their swords. The next moment, they swung their swords and formed an isolation ring. Wang! A sword cloud was formed in the sky and streams of water shrouded an area that spanned over 1,000 meters. Someone is going to lose his life here. Sealing the entire space. In other words, even if one were to admit his defeat, no one outside the space could hear. SSS. It has been several months since a disciple of Dahong Immortal Sect lost his life in an arena match. It seems like someone is going down today. The Dragon King is almost certain to die. What gives him the guts to challenge Su Fa, Tong Xiuwen, and the other 4 disciples? His brain must be wrecked. That's simply courting his own death. Boorish fellow. He's too rash. When the surrounding disciples witnessed what happened, they exclaimed and discussed softly among themselves. Several higher management members of Dahong Immortal Sect frowned slightly. They looked at the region shrouded in a water veil but didn't say a word. Once one got into an arena, he had to bear the consequences. Huh. Yu Qianmei. Take a look with your own eyes. Witness how the most outstanding disciple of Mfengyu is killed right before you. Mentor Leng was exhilarated and appeared hideous while laughing hysterically. Piao Lingxue looked plainly across Mentor Leng and her lips curved into a smirk. Hong Tianda looked across the group and his eyes beamed with contempt. I'm going to slaughter you today. At this moment, a blinding light shot out from Su Fei's eyes. He shouted, waved his arm, and a 10-meter-long by 3-meter-wide water sword was formed instantly. The water sword lunged towards Wang Xian at incredible speed. When the crowd saw it, they were astonished. This is sword explosion. It's so quick and fast. He formed a 10-meter-long sword in the blink of an eye. SSS. It's not a fluke that he is ranked 5th among disciples in the Hong Immortal sect. He's too strong. He won't need the help from the other 4 at all. Senior brother Su Fei could easily kill the Dragon King by himself. The sudden explosion of the attack shocked the surrounding disciples. They were all elite disciples of the Hong Immortal sect. With a single look, they were able to tell the horrifying strength Su Fei had displayed. Great. Not too bad. Mentor Leng was satisfied with what she saw as she smirked. On the other hand, Mentor Yu was anxious and stared fervently at the battle. Sword explosion. Seeing the huge water sword charging towards him, Wang Xian revealed a cold smirk. He moved his arm and the white cloth that covered the serpent sword exploded away, revealing the real appearance of the sword. The sword had an entirely black body and had terrifying scale stones embedded in it. The entire serpent sword resembled a monster. Sword explosion. Wang Xian used the same attack and a water sword was formed instantly. The water sword was exceptionally gruesome and had identical looks to the serpent in his hand. In an instant, the water sword grew to over 30 meters. Explode! The moment the water sword was formed, Su Fei shouted. That huge 10-meter water sword exploded into countless small swords as they flew towards Wang Xian. Explode! Wang Xian shouted coldly. Grr! Just as his voice sounded, that huge water serpent sword also exploded. In addition to the explosion, a terrifying growl reverberated across. Soon after, ravaging serpent swords shot towards Su Fei and the other 4 youths who had their arms crossed and were watching from the side. What? How can this be possible? Shit! The Dragon King is terrifyingly strong. When the 30-meter serpent sword was formed with water energy and exploded, the surrounding crowd could feel a chill running down their spines. At that instant, they were horrified. Chapter 597, 5 Kills. Great terror and calamity had descended. The place within a radius of 1,000 meters was completely shrouded by water and sword cloud battle techniques displayed by Tong Xiuping, Lin Xingzhan, Feng Haoxi, Ming Ziyu. None of the sounds could travel outside. Yet, the moment when the horrifying 30-meter sword explosion erupted, a terrifying growl was heard. All the people outside were aghast. That growl and that scary explosion were heard clearly by all of them, even with the water veil blocking in between them. As soon as the explosion happened, the scary sword shaped itself into a ferocious beast, easily devouring the sword explosion released by Su Fei. Terrifying, monstrous longswords charged at Su Fei and the remaining 4 people. The quartet who were watching Su Fei and Wang Xian fighting with ease felt their hair stand immediately. Oh no! They let out a scream of horror while they gathered an immense amount of water energy straight away. Water shield! Water shield! Several of them hurriedly shouted as they looked at the sword explosion attacks shrouding over their heads in consternation. How is this possible? Su Fei paled instantly as films of cold sweat broke out on his forehead while the longsword stood in front of him. Thick streams of water current wrapped around them. There was no way to hide, no means to hide. The sword explosion encompassed an area that was too large for them to dodge, given their speed. Since they could not dodge in time, they could only put up their defense. What a terrifying sword explosion! How can this be so domineering? The hearts of the other mountain sect's disciples outside skipped a beat as they staggered back involuntarily. The strength of the Dragon King. Every one of them put on a mixed expression. When they saw the sword explosion encompassing 1,000 meters, their bodies shivered. Oh no! Oh no, no! At this time, Ao Shuwen and Mentor Leng, who were waiting for Su Fa and the rest to teach Dragon King a lesson, were aghast. Sensing the energy inside, their eyes surged with horror. Budding Realm Strength, Level 12 Spiritual Equipment. A shrill voice was heard from Mentor Leng and it struck everyone with a stun. Budding Realm Strength. Level 12 Spiritual Equipment. All the disciples murmured, exhibiting a startled look. There were only 3 Budding Realm disciples in the entire De Hong Immortal sect. Now, another one had appeared unexpectedly. On top of that, he was very young. Boom! At this moment, the sword explosion hit upon the defense of Su Fa and the remaining 4. The sword explosion enveloped them while a booming sound caused by the domineering power was heard. The earth shook. The members of higher management, Mentor Yu, Piao Lingxue, and the rest, revealed a shocked look. Stop! Stop! At this time, screams were heard from afar. 5 figures rode over on their swords. Shit! I hope they are all right. 5 of them came to the area above the explosion, wearing a different look while fixing their eyes below. The sword explosion disappeared, and the water veil dissipated. A figure was still standing there, holding one scary colossal sword in the center. All of them quickly took a look at the 5 pits. Gone. Nothing is left. That's odd. Every pit has a sword lying in it. But where's Su Fa and Tong Xiuping? Only the swords are left. They have been eradicated by the attacks such that not even a body is left. Eradicated. Everyone was genuinely shocked as they revealed a stunned look in their eyes. You actually killed them all. Mentor Leng blurted out a sharp shrill cry as she stared at Wang Xian with murderous eyes. Xiuping. Xingjian. The mentors of MT Xingyun and MT Wu had a drastic change in their expressions. Mentors of Feng Haoxi and Ming Ziyu's faces were darkened instantly too. They are all dead. Dragon King actually slayed 5 disciples who were in the top 20. He's really a supreme talent. Gosh, 5 supreme talents were instantly killed without any ashes left. This is too cruel. 5 top 20 supreme talents of De Hong Immortal sect were killed by a single move. The strength of the Dragon King is simply too terrifying. All it took was one move. Just one move. All the surrounding disciples let out horrified exclamations. The female disciples from MT Shui were more stunned than ever. They watched the young man in the arena, holding a huge sword as their hearts raced frantically. How handsome he is! Super dashing. Dragon King, you're a budding realm expert, and yet, you challenged the 5 of them. What motives do you have? You're one class above them, and you killed the outstanding disciples of De Hong Immortal sect on purpose. Bellows of anger rang in everyone's ears as Mentor Leng, and the mentors of Lin Xingjian and Tong Xiuping, stared at Wang Xian furiously. Great Elder, Second Great Elder, the Dragon King of Mdifengyu deliberately concealed his cultivation level and killed our outstanding disciples of De Hong Immortal sect. His sin. Mentor Leng screamed with a malevolent expression when she saw the elders who flew in and stood in the air. Mdifengyu actually recruited an outstanding disciple, an elite disciple of the budding realm. He had even slain one of the outstanding disciples of Mtleng, which agitated her even more. That young man of Mdifengyu was supposed to be dead instead. Glad that you're fine. However, before Mentor Leng could even complete her statement, that few elders in the elder chuckled. There were no signs of rage on their faces even though the supreme talents of De Hong Immortal sect had been killed. Instead, they looked elated. Mentor Leng's complaint was stuck in the air as she looked on with shock. The Dragon King is actually the master who is unparalleled in refining elixir pills and equipment, a disciple of De Hong Immortal sect. If not for Elder Mu, we wouldn't have known about it. An old man stared at Wang Xian with admiration. Not bad, not bad. You're the most dazzling master at such a young age. A budding realm expert. Your future will be bright. As the old man spoke, he walked to Wang Xian. Another 4 elders also walked over with beaming faces. In times like this, we're lucky to have such outstanding disciples in the Hong Immortal sect. If not for the 2 sect leaders still being in the Yongchang Cauldron, they would like to meet you in person. The 5 voices of the elders resounded through the entire spiritual tea session. What they said stunned all the people completely, in particular, Mentor Leng and the rest of the mentors. They widened their eyes with shocked looks on their faces. Master who is unparalleled in refining elixir pills and equipment. The sect leaders want to meet him in person. The most dazzling master of Yongchang. The disciples of mountain sects were going dizzy as the 5 elders were the real 5 top-notch men in the entire Yongchang Immortal sect. From the great elder to second great elder, all the way to 5 great elders. When the sect leader was not around, the 5 of them would decide all the matters that happened in the entire De Hong Immortal sect. Yet, at this moment, 5 elders actually came together, staring at the Dragon King with fervent eyes. That look was almost akin to those female disciples of Mtshua. Chapter 598, Becoming an Elder. The most dazzling master in Yongchang City and the only existence that is unparalleled in refining elixir pills and equipment. There's only one such person in the rumors circulating lately. He's that master in Yongchang City. Moreover, some female disciples from Mtshua addressed him as the handsome master at the very beginning of his rise to fame. SSS rumor has it that the most demon-like talent in Yongchang City is both an alchemist master and a blacksmith master. Who would have thought that the Dragon King is that master who is unparalleled in refining elixir pills and equipment? A disciple exclaimed loudly. His eyes widened and stared at Wang Xian with disbelief. What? The Dragon King is the hottest and most famous master in Yongchang City recently? This. When the surrounding disciples from various mountain sects heard that disciple, they were astonished and stared blankly into the field. Although the Immortal sect didn't set clear rules that higher realm disciples were restricted from challenging lower realm disciples and murdering them on purpose, all the disciples still knew clearly. When fighting in the arena, if there's a huge difference in strength, one party couldn't simply kill the other party. Otherwise, he would have broken the unwritten rule. Yet, the Dragon King had killed 5 supreme talents of De Hong Immortal sect with a single move. Clearly, the Dragon King had broken the unwritten rule. If the higher management of the Immortal sect was to pursue the matter, the Dragon King would have to bear the consequences. However, the current situation was clear that this matter would be shelved aside after the 5 elders had all arrived. As compared to a disciple whose reputation as an alchemist master and blacksmith master was known throughout Yongchang world, Su Fa, Tong Xiuping and the other youths were no longer important. Even if they were ranked among the top 20 supreme talents. Elder Mu. Elders. Wang Xian identified one of the elders to be that old man from the Mu family. Huh. Master Dragon King, the other elders have heard about what you are capable of and would like to see you in person. If you have the time, come to the elders' pavilion for a chat. Elder Mu smiled and spoke to Wang Xian. Sure, no problem. Wang Xian nodded his head. He looked in the direction where Hong Tianda was, tossed the huge sword across and said, "Remember to send me the 50,000 spiritual stones tomorrow." "All right. I'll send them over tomorrow." Hong Tianda stared at the huge sword in his hands fervently and was clearly loving this sword. "Elders, let's go." Wang Xian turned his gaze back to the 5 elders and spoke with a smile. "Sure. We have something to discuss with the Dragon King too." The old man in the middle smiled satisfactorily at Wang Xian. The next moment, they took flight and hovered in the air. A piece of cloud appeared below Wang Xian's legs. Following closely behind the elders, Wang Xian flew towards the main peak of De Hong Immortal sect. SSS. Even the great elder is addressing him as the Dragon King and a master. This is truly shocking. The elder's attitude towards him. That's simply a little overboard. The 5 elders have seen and treated him as though they are at the same level. One could even argue that they are acting deferentially. A master that is unparalleled in refining elixir pills and equipment is indeed deserving of such treatment. The matter of Su Fa, Tong Xiuping and the rest being killed would likely be shelved away too. The surrounding disciples were astonished as they stared blankly at the disappearing figure. They took a deep breath. Who would have expected the Dragon King to possess such an insane level of strength? Who would have expected the Dragon King to be the hottest and most famous master that is unparalleled in refining elixir pills and equipment in Yongchang City recently? No one would have linked them together. They looked towards senior brother Hong Tianda and felt a little lost. Clearly, senior brother Hong Tianda had requested that the Dragon King modify this seemingly familiar huge sword. As compared to the strength of the sword held by the Tianyi swordsman previously, the current sword was a lot more terrifying. The master in Yongchang City is him. It's actually him. At this moment, Ao Shuwen looked exceptionally bitter and embarrassed. The 4 disciples that followed him were killed. However, the other party was the hottest and most famous alchemist master and blacksmith master currently. Puff! However, at the thought of Master Xuanhua and Master Qingming visiting his family last night, he took a deep breath and ruthlessness beamed in his eyes. Your strength is something I had not expected. However, you shouldn't have been acting so cockily and haughtily. You have offended too many people. A creepy smirk appeared on Ao Shuwen. He held the longsword in his hand tightly and left. The surrounding crowd of disciples from Ndifengyu were completely dumbfounded. Even Mentor Yu stood there in shock, not moving an inch. She had not expected the young man who she had saved previously to be so terrifyingly talented. Even her husband who once stood at the top of De Hong Immortal Sect wasn't a match for him in terms of talents. Yu Linger looked mindlessly at the sky and recalled the moment she first met this young man. A myriad of emotions welled up within her. Looking at the group of female disciples from Mtishui discussing fervently, she lowered her head gradually. Master Wang Xian, with your current strength, you would be more than capable of becoming an elder in De Hong Immortal Sect. I wonder if you have this intention, the old man in the middle of the group asked Wang Xian the moment they landed at the Elder's Pavilion located in the middle of the majestic main peak. Elder? I wouldn't mind. My current focus is still on refining spiritual equipment and elixirs. Feeling the gazes from the 5 elders, Wang Xian chuckled. In that case, let us arrange for it. With your strength, it wouldn't be appropriate for you to remain as a disciple. The 5 of us can grant you the status of an elder so you can enjoy the benefits and authority of an elder, the old man in the middle said to Wang Xian directly. All right. In that case, I have to thank various elders for the opportunity. Wang Xian chuckled. The truth was he wasn't really interested in the status of an elder. The 5 elders could also tell that Wang Xian wasn't particularly interested in the status of an elder. However, they didn't say a word. With his unparalleled skills in refining elixir pills and spiritual equipment, the status of elder in De Hong Immortal Sect was indeed insignificant. In Yongchang world, strength dictated everything. Master Wang, other than inviting you to become an elder of the Immortal Sect, we have another objective for inviting you over. The old man in the middle gestured to Wang Xian before heading into the Elder's Pavilion. It's coming. Upon hearing the old man, Wang Xian knew that the real objective was coming. The Yongchang world was different from the outside world. In this place, 3 immortal sects controlled the entire Yongchang world. Moreover, the 3 immortal sects weren't competitors. As a result, no matter how talented one was, the immortal sect might not have paid a lot more attention to him. No matter how talented one was, he was still part of Yongchang world and would be ruled by the immortal sects. However, Wang Xian was a little different. He could bring the De Hong Immortal Sect huge benefits. Elders, feel free to speak. If it's something I can do, I'll definitely agree. Wang Xian spoke directly. I believe it's clear that it's about refining elixir pills and spiritual equipment. Master has an extremely high success rate. Now that the Immortal Sect is preparing to refine a batch of elixir pills and spiritual equipment, we would like to invite Master Wang to be in charge. I wonder what your stance on this is? The old man in the middle said directly. Ha! In charge of refining elixir pills and spiritual equipment? Wang Xian's eyes beamed with excitement. We can prepare some assistance tools for Master Wang to increase the success rate of your art of water refining. Moreover, there would also be a sum of remuneration. Chapter 599, Still Alive. What about the remuneration? How do we go about calculating it? Wang Xian asked the 5 elders up front. It was a golden opportunity to Wang Xian, refining spiritual equipment and elixir pills for an immortal sect. If the remuneration was fairly decent, not only would he be able to promote his status to that of an immortal, he would also be able to provide the Dragon Sect members with large amounts of elixir pills. Master Wang, I'm sure your success rate for refining level 5 elixir pills has reached between 70 to 8%. As for level 6 pills, I'm sure it's at least 60%. The elder standing in the middle rambled on as he spoke to Wang Xian. Yep, more or less. Wang Xian nodded emotionlessly. What a marvel, even a Grand Master would pale in comparison. Even though the quintet had been mentally prepared for the answer, they could not help but marvel upon hearing the confirmation. 3 portions of elixir pills, of which the Immortal Sect will get 8 pills. As for the spiritual equipment, it'll be 1.5 portions. With that, help the Immortal Sect refine elixir pills and spiritual equipment on a large scale. What do you say? The elder standing in the middle asked Wang Xian after some hesitation. 8 pills for 3 portions? Wang Xian frowned. To him, this remuneration was no less lucrative. But the quantity as required by the Dahong Immoral Sect was relatively larger, which thus would definitely render this deal worthwhile. Nonetheless, he could not agree to it easily. To a master, offering 8 pills using 3 portions was no doubt miserly, so much so that it was almost impossible. Master Wang, we can have a set of 8 equipment meant for the art of water refining prepared for you. This is a set of spiritual equipment assembled using 5 level 12 spiritual liquid balls. It'll help to increase the success rate greatly. So much so that, with this set of 8 equipment, you can try your hand at refining level 7 elixir pills and level 12 spiritual equipment. The centermost elder persuaded Wang Xian upon sensing his hesitation. Furthermore, to top it off, the Yongchang Cauldron will begin to manifest in another month's time. Master Wang can then help himself directly to one of our internal headcounts within the Dahong Immortal Sect. The elder promised yet another benefit. Spiritual equipment using 5 level 12 spiritual liquid balls? The beginning of the Yongchang Cauldron? Wang Xian asked with a puzzled look, albeit with a glint flashing across his eyes. He continued to ask in bewilderment, what's the beginning of the Yongchang Cauldron's manifestation? Perhaps Master Wang is not aware given your young age. There's actually room within the Yongchang Cauldron which is sacred grounds for cultivation. The spiritual energy within it is tens of times more than what's found outside. A day of cultivation would equate to 1 or 2 months of the same while one is outside. The Yongchang Cauldron will only open up for manifestation once every 50 years. This time though, due to unique circumstances, it's opening up in advance. Of our 3 immortal sects, there's only 1 spot each which is reserved internally. As for the remaining 10 spots, they'll be up for grabs through one's capabilities, the elder elaborated. Spiritual energy, with a concentration of tens of times. Wang Xian shrieked in surprise. Thereafter, he nodded with some pretense of hesitation. All right, I'll agree to it. Great. In that case, let's see when you are available, Master Wang. I'll have my disciples do the customization for you before proceeding to build you a summit for cultivation. The quintet wasted no time in asking as their eyes shimmered with excitement. 5 days from now. I want to complete the refinement of all the spiritual equipment in my shop. Wang Xian replied. Sure, Master Wang. 5 days from now, come over to the main summit. Today, we'll make an announcement and declare that Dragon King Wang Xian has ascended to become an elder of Dahong Immortal Sect. The quintet responded with a laugh. In that case, I'll take my leave now, elders. Wang Xian nodded with a smile before waving at the elders. Sure. The quintet nodded back as they watched Wang Xian take his leave. I really wonder where such a wicked genius comes from, one of the elders commented. Where else? Don't tell me he has dropped from the sky. It's likely that this Dragon King's been handed some legacy, and born with defying talents. After sustaining injuries in an accident, he ended up at Mdfengyu by fate. This can be the only possibility, which is good news for us in Dahong Immortal Sect. By having him refine elixir pills and spiritual equipment for us, we'll get to save big on our materials. As they watched Wang Xian's silhouette from the back, the quintet chatted in laughter. While the Dahong Immortal Sect had not done a check on the background of this junior Dragon King, his sudden appearance and fast ascension was something they paid no attention to either. Since he had made his appearance in the world of Yongchang, then he must belong here. For outsiders can never make their way in, even in the case of immortals. Under the defense of the spirit array, those who try to barge their way into Yongchang are almost guaranteed to fail. However, what they did not know was that the current spirit array could no longer compare with that of the past. The Yongchang Immortal Sect was located at the centermost location, at the very core of the Yongchang world. While the Dahong Immortal Sect resided on its left, and the Immortal Slaying Sect on the right. The Yongchang Immortal Sect was the most capable immortal sect amongst the top trio. Of which, it housed more immortal experts and disciples than Dahong and Immortal Slaying Sect. When one looked across, one would see the entire Immortal Sect grounds lit up in bright red. Located atop a volcano, the area above was filled with lush inferno trees, while flaming birds overtook the skies accompanied by the flaming elves who danced their way all around. All in all, the entire place appeared like a fiery sacred ground. On the highest summit of the Yongchang Immortal Sect, which measured up to almost 10,000 meters, the volcano was spurting flames which shot up to 100 meters. This was the main summit of the Yongchang Immortal Sect. On it were numerous buildings with majestic architecture that resembled ancient divine flaming temples. This made them appear solemn yet magnificent. The spirit array's defense from the Yongchang world is weakening by the day. Looks like we're running out of time. In one of the divine temples within the main summit, a dignified-looking middle-aged stood before a bed. His appearance was phantasmagorical, accentuated by the flickering red lights. Upon a closer look, one would realize that he did not come with a physical state, but rather as an illusion. But his aura was no less terrifying, even despite being a mere illusion. Daddy, didn't you say it'd take another 1 or 2 years? Within the room stood a teenage girl beside the illusion as she scrutinized the two who were lying on the bed with utmost curiosity. To which, she continued mumbling, to think that these two are still alive. Along with the teenage girl was another elder, who stood respectfully by the side. In mild astonishment, the elder took a glance at the bedridden duo without saying a word. It won't take that long now, Xiao Xiao. So you know them? The illusion of the middle-aged asked the teenage girl with a smile. I do, how could it be otherwise? One is the sect leader of Devil Corpse Palace, amongst diabolism from the underworld outside. While the other's the sect leader of the Donghua Sacred Sect, amongst the alliance of the orthodox sects. The teenage girl nodded. Within the underworld, they're the respective premiers of the orthodox sects and diabolism. Of course, had it not been for that dragon sect and its dragon king, they would have been the most powerful duo within the underworld. The teenage girl commented yet again. Premiers of the underworld? If that's the case, then we must make sure to revive them. The illusionary figure groaned as the lights on him flickered. Daddy, given their capabilities, they're no more than mere experts within our Yongchang standing. Large amounts of level 7 elixir pills will be required should we wish to revive them. Moreover, this Emperor Qi of diabolism is a crook. Should we still save him then? The teenage girl asked the illusionary figure in confusion. The 9 cauldrons are descending into the real world. While the mortals of the real world are weak, they're nonetheless locals. Even if we won't have any use for their powers, we can make use of them to help us ease into the real world quickly. By treating them, it'll help Yongchang build up a channel to source information. Upon complete descent into the real world, that'll save us a lot of trouble. The illusionary figure laughed as he watched the bedridden duo with glistening eyes. The duo were on the brink of death. Namely Nye Wushuang, the sect leader of Donghua sacred sect from the alliance of the orthodox sects, as well as Emperor Qi from diabolism. The elder who had been standing by the side laughed along with the teenage girl and the guild leader of the Sacred Followers Guild. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.